We're going to start in 2 minutes. I just want to give everybody a warning at 9 o'clock.
There's a warning order.
Yeah, that's a winner.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Coming today. I'd like to call this meeting to order. We're going to have a roll call first. Representative Buchanan.
Present.
Representative Good.
Here.
Representative Gregory.
Here.
Representative Newton. Representative Robinson.
Here.
We have a quorum. We can proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance. Representative Gregory, will you lead us in the pledge? Please stand.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. I'd like to give an opportunity for all the members to briefly introduce yourselves and to give us any comments you'd like. We'll start on the left. Representative Gregory, please.
Good morning. My name is Tommy Gregory, representing District 73, which for Sarasota County is Clark Road to University Parkway on the east side of Sarasota and east side of I-75. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to hearing all the presentations today.
Representative Robinson.
Is this on? Great. Really excited to be here today. I represent District 71. As I've jokingly told people, I'm the new and improved Jim Boyd. I've taken over for Representative Boyd. So I'm very happy to be here. We had our Manatee County delegation about a month ago, so it's going to be great to hear from all you all from Sarasota County. Thank you.
Representative Good.
Good morning. My name is Margaret Good. I represent District 72. That is mostly all of northern Sarasota County except for the part that Representative Robinson represents. And I am happy to be here. I look forward to hearing your concerns and your issues and the things that you want us to do in the legislature to move Sarasota forward.
Thank you. Representative Buchanan.
Good morning, James Buchanan. I represent District 74, which is all of South Sarasota County. I think I speak on behalf of the entire delegation to say it's an honor and a pleasure to serve you in Tallahassee. We're here today to listen to your input, your ideas, and that at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So we look forward to hearing from you today. Thank you.
Representative Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Representative Wingate Newton. I represent the smallest district in the delegation, St. Pinellas, Manatee, Sarasota, and Hillsborough. You just come out of St. Pete, you go up 75 for about 15 minutes, and over the horizon is Ruskin. You come back down 75 through Ribonia and the Palmetto and the Bradenton, that's Manatee. And you go all the way down between 41 and 301 to Fruitville Road, and that's Sarasota. I'm happy to be headed back for my third term with our new senator and chairman. And I look forward to hearing your concerns. We look to you guys to be the subject matter experts. Understand that we don't know all and see all, so if you don't tell us, we don't know. So I look forward to hearing your concerns and your priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Newton. So we have 59 people that have signed up to speak. We have this room for 3 hours, so instead of giving everybody the typical 3 minutes, which would take us exactly 3 hours, since we're going to have some questions and answers, I'm going to give everybody 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So if you've had a speech prepared, I would adjust as possible. I'd like to thank all the elected officials for coming out. I see some in the room, County Commissioners Hines, Ziegler, Karen Rushing, Ron Turner, Bill First, Jane Goodwin, and if I don't see you, if I'm not recognizing you, I'm sorry, but thank you for coming to our elected officials. Thank you to the community groups that are stepping up and presenting your issues today. I want to tell you, I think that we are a very young delegation up here, but we have a strong delegation. We have 4 Republicans, 2 Democrats. We've already are working together as a team because at the end of the day in Tallahassee, things are not conservative versus liberal or Republican versus Democrat. We are one team fighting on your behalf. Up there, and we're going to go up there, and my goal is to do all I can to make sure that we bring as many resources back to our local community as possible. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to come here today, and we are ready to go to bat, and we're going to get this meeting kicked off. We have a local bill which will be presented by Mr. Jonathan Johnson. Mr. Johnson, please come to the speaker's podium, and we'll hear a brief bill presentation. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Jonathan Johnson with the Hopping Green and Sam's Law Firm. I'm General Counsel to the Stewardship District. You have before you a local bill amending the boundaries of the Lakewood Range Stewardship District for a net addition of approximately 2,300 acres. The property that is being added, or the amendment, is located entirely within Manatee County. However, because the district is located in both Manatee and Sarasota, the bill is before you for your consideration as well. I'm happy to tell you the Manatee delegation has already met and approved the local bill. Sarasota County has already issued their letter of non-objection, and Manatee County has it on the agenda to issue theirs tomorrow morning at their commission meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but we're hoping for your approval of this bill as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we can proceed with the delegation vote on this proposed bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The bill passes. We have approval by the majority of the delegation. Therefore, the bill can be introduced to the legislature. As chairman of the delegation, I am assigning Representative Tommy Gregory to carry this wonderful bill. Thank you, Tommy. Now we will begin our agenda, and we'll hear from our elected officials and then from all interested parties. I must tell you again that we have 59 presentations to hear. Therefore, I respectfully request that you limit your presentations to 2 minutes and 15 seconds to respect the folks that are going to be at the end of this series, and we will do questions. If any of the members have questions after any speaker, please let me know. Yeah, so everybody can mute their phones. It's a great idea. First up, Sarasota County.
Good morning, delegation. As chairman of the Sarasota County Commission, I, Charles Hines, have the pleasure of addressing you and kind of pointing out the issues that we have coming before the state this year, and I'll do my best to stay within the time frame, so I appreciate it. Again, thanks for your dedication and service. I know we meet with you all individually, both before and during sessions, so you're going to hear some things that you've probably already heard, but it's good that we can hear it all together. So first of all, as one of our main priorities, and it's obviously the state's also, is water quality. The picture that you see on the paper, or on the television right now, is of Sarasota Bay. We all were devastated by what occurred this summer, and Sarasota County has been working hard for a number of years to deal with water quality issues such as the Philippi Creek septic tank to sewer switch, which you all have maybe heard over time. If you've been in your seats, we've been asking for money for that and assistance, and that is making a difference. Also, the Donna Bay project, if you haven't heard of that, it has gained national recognition as retrofitting very poorly designed stormwater runoff and is already making a huge difference down in Donna and Roberts Bay in South County. and is a model for others to follow. So that's still in the works, and hopefully, if you haven't seen it, I would be happy to individually take you around and show that to you. Also, with Hurricane Irma, we all learned our strengths and weaknesses over the last, few years in regards to that. And so you'll hear from us in regards to at least one more hurricane evacuation shelter that we need. We have what's been kind of called as a donut hole in the Venice, Nokomis, Osprey area that we need another evacuation center. And we are currently working with Sarasota Memorial Hospital as they're going to build on Laurel Road and I-75 to partner with them and add an evacuation center there. Now, I mention it to you all because this is more than just a Sarasota County project. I mean, you may or may not know this, but Charlotte County is woefully absent or, does not have evacuation shelters because of their low-lying areas. So Sarasota County during Irma had the privilege of hosting, most of those people from Charlotte County. So we need your help on that one. Red Tide, Legacy Trail, and Beach Restoration. I normally get to do that, so I'm not going to offend myself. So thank you, and hopefully if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions?
No. Thanks. I know it. Well,
They
I don't want to be
I
a hypocrite because when I do it, I ask people to stop. Thank you.
Okay. Town of Longboat Key, Mayor Spoll.
Good morning. I'm George Spoll, Mayor of Longboat Key. Thank you for this opportunity to appear. We have provided our list of 2019 legislative priorities, but would like to highlight a few. Tourism is absolutely essential to our well-being and to that of the state of Florida. The new phenomenon of persistent red tide, continuing well in the season and beyond, already has had a devastating impact on tourism in our southwest and elsewhere in coastal Florida. With foreboding result on real estate values, it is imperative that we create a statewide focus and a single point of leadership, a czar, if you would, who wakes up every morning thinking only of that job, to implement a solution. The cleanup of our waters must be accomplished. Sea level rise calls for a similar approach, while less immediate but no less important. The need to plan ahead is critical, albeit costly, and overwhelming in envisioning its consequences to our low-lying paradise. Lastly, our barrier island, having no direct bridge to the mainland, must have reasonable, continued historic right-of-way access through our neighboring barrier islands. We look forward to proper findings and implementation resulting from the FDOT Barrier Islands Traffic Study, including timely and necessary FDOT and local MPO funding to make this possible. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. City of Northport.
Good morning, everybody. I am Vice Mayor Debbie McDowell from the amazing city of Northport. I'd like to thank you for your service in being here today. I'd also like to recognize our city manager and Commissioner Luke from the city. First off, before I get into things that are of top priority, I want to say thank you for River Road and moving it up on the list to get it done quicker. Thank you for that. Our first list is the certificate of need. We are, the city of Northport, the largest city in Sarasota County and the surrounding area that does not have a hospital. We desperately need a hospital in the Northport city limits. We had a private provider that wanted to take the risk and build a hospital in Northport, but because of the certificate of need, they were declined. And I guess they're still fighting that. So we desperately need to readdress how the certificate of need is done. We also need to talk about stormwater projects. Most of our city is on septic, and that is a huge problem in the city, and it's a very expensive project to undertake, not just for the city, but for the citizens that have to hook up. The third thing I'd like to talk about, I only got a minute left. Third thing is Warm Meadow Springs and Little Salt Springs. You'll be hearing from another speaker later on today about how these are the forgotten springs in Florida. Your Florida legislation has springs that are mostly to the north. Warm Meadow Springs and Little Salt Springs needs to be included in that because those are our springs that make Northport what it is. We have 2 of them in our city limits. I have time for more. We'd also like to see increased funding for suicide prevention and mental health programs, along with a pass-out that we already passed out to you for Department of Children and Family Services to get a reform done. So thank you very much for your time. I want to leave 10 seconds for questions if you have any.
What was the other spring besides
Warren Middle Springs and Little Salt Springs.
Go for it.
Good morning. I serve on the Department of Children, Family, and Seniors, and you said something about reform. Could you
Correct.
elaborate?
We passed a resolution in our city to have this state take a look at welfare, child protective services reform due to the loss of the little toddler that got killed by his mother, 6 months ago or so. So, but there's a resolution on in your packet too. Anything else?
There's current legislation being introduced to address that.
Oh, fantastic.
And we also, I think out of the 7 counties that do the CIP, 3 of them I represent, and it's done by the Sheriff Department. And we're looking at ways to probably get additional funding and expand that. So we did talk about that just last week in committee.
Awesome, thank you very much. Maybe we can meet with you and work together.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
Thank you very much.
City of Sarasota? Vice Mayor.
Good morning. My name is Jen Ahern Koch, and I'm Vice Mayor of the City of Sarasota. I want to thank you all for being here and paying attention and listening to our legislative priorities for 2019. I wanted to say right away that I was told I had 15 minutes, so I prepared 15 minutes, and I only have 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So I did pass out a sheet with everything that I had prepared, so I will try to touch on some of the topics that some of the other cities did not touch on. Solar energy, the City of Sarasota has adopted the Ready for 100 initiative, committing city operations to being 100% renewable by 2030. Solar energy is a key component, and we should be a leader in this area, and we currently are not. Expanding our solar potential is a multifaceted positive step towards clean energy and also has tremendous potential for economic, job development, and growth. We ask that you support legislation allowing 2 things: virtual net metering and purchase power agreements for municipalities. Other states allow this, but in Florida, only regulated utilities can utilize purchase power agreements. Affordable housing is a national crisis and a local crisis. Our constituents have made it clear that this must be a priority in order to maintain a healthy, growing, and safe community. The Sadowski Housing Trust Foundation was set up for this specific purpose and was swept by the state legislature, and without these dedicated funds, our efforts are undermined. We ask that you support legislation aimed at allocating the full amount of documentary tax revenue funds in the Sadowski Housing Trust Fund to local municipalities, counties, and nonprofit organizations. Further, we request that you support increased funding for community development block grants, home partnership programs, and SHIP funding. Commissioner Hines and others touched on the environment and water quality, and we also support any state funding into red tide research and increasing local funding for local government for cleanup for red tide. The next is homelessness and mental health initiatives. We are proud as a city of our successes in partnering with Sarasota County. Is that it? No, and other nonprofit organizations, and we ask that you increase funding for homelessness programs, housing for homeless, and operating capital for agencies which oversee many programs. Our other issues are public safety, home rule, and the environment.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. I see on your legislative priorities that you oppose legislation that would repeal your local authority to enable the use of red light cameras. Can you, offline provide me more information on the basis for that?
I can. Do you want me to do that now or later?
Just later.
Later. Okay, no
Thank you.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you. City of Venice, Mayor Hollick.
Good morning, Honorable Senator and Honorable Representatives. Thank you for the privilege of addressing you today. My name is John Hollick. I'm the mayor of the City of Venice. City of Venice applauds and supports Governor DeSantis with his executive order to increase water monitoring around the state and establish a task force to address blue-green algae. A growing threat worsened by pollution and a warming planet that now regularly fouls rivers flowing from a massive lake half the size of Rhode Island. We also support the cleanup of septic tanks, banning fracking, and focus on a more green infrastructure. The City of Venice also supports Senator Gruters in his efforts to have septic tanks inspected and abandon smoking on the beaches. City of Venice has 16 major stormwater outfalls, several of which discharge stormwater directly across the beach to the Gulf of Mexico. Stormwater discharges can be a contributor to poor water quality and pollutant loading, which can increase the intensity and duration of harmful algae blooms. The city is improving the performance of the outfalls in 2 phases. Phase 1 is a project to implement stormwater outfall monitoring to assess the pollutant loading into our coastal waters from the individual outfalls. And after the outfall monitoring is complete, a prioritization plan will be developed to identify the highest pollutant contributors, and a Phase 2 project list will be created. Phase 2 of this project is to implement structural and non-structural best management practices at the highest priority stormwater outfalls to provide a decrease in pollutant loading at those outfall locations. City respectfully requests $600,000 in funding to implement Stage 1. We have filed for the grant. Funding for Stage 2 would be included in the future after the outfall monitoring and prioritization plan is complete. The city requests support of legislation that provides for home rule authority, and there are many other priorities that we did file with you and ask that you take a look at them. Thank you for your service to the people of the state of Florida. The City of Venice looks forward to working with you for the betterment of our communities.
Thank you. Any questions? See none, thank you very much. And just for the record, I filed that bill with Representative Robinson down there, that septic bill. He deserves some credit. Go ahead, Ron.
Good morning, Senator, Representatives. Ron Turner, Supervisor of Elections. I presented to you a list of legislative priorities from the Florida State Association of Supervisors of Elections, which represents the county supervisors of elections throughout Florida. I will touch on one today, which is funding for ERIC, which is the Electronic Registration Information Center. The legislature passed a bill last session which allows the state of Florida to join a consortium of states. There are currently 26 states, including the District of Columbia. Florida would be the 27th state where we'd be able to share voter registration data between states to help us keep Florida's voter rolls even more clean than we're able to do currently through list maintenance. What the legislation last year authorized was for the state of Florida and the Secretary of State to join this consortium, which has not happened yet, but hopefully this will be a priority as we move into this new year. But we want to make sure that funding is available for the Department of State and the state of Florida to continue this effort once we join this group. I've given you a list of other priorities, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for your report. During the last election cycle, and you with the Florida State Association of Supervisors of Election.
Yes, Representative Newton.
Okay. Is there, it was reported that some SOEs had older, antiquated equipment, so they couldn't implement the will of the law as it pertained to recounting. Why would not we have uniform equipment throughout the state, and do your organization ever talk about that, or can you address
Well, currently under Florida law, the way that it works is that the Florida Secretary of State is in charge of certifying voting equipment in the state of Florida. The state of Florida does not take part in federal voting equipment certification, which is available, but we have our own certification in Florida. There are currently 2 voting system vendors in the state of Florida that have systems available to us. Sarasota County implemented a new voting tabulation system during the 2016 election cycle, so ours is relatively new. And I think most of the counties in Florida have gone to newer systems. You know, I can't speak for every supervisor in Florida or every board of county commissioners who actually work with the supervisors to make those purchases at the county level for voting equipment. But I can say, as I said, that Sarasota County's voting equipment is relatively new. We first implemented it during the presidential preference primary in 2016. Do I think that it's a good idea for supervisors and counties to keep current with voting equipment? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Sarasota County Clerk of Court, Karen Rushing.
Thank you very much. I'm here today as having served as the legislative chair for Florida clerks for the past 8 years to address an outdated funding model set by the legislature. The model was originally designed to have fines and fees support the obligations of the clerk. And although hundreds of millions of dollars are collected by clerks statewide, the distribution of the collections is set by the legislature. And they no longer support adequately the changing responsibilities of the clerk. The devil is always in the details, but the current model is highly dependent on traffic citations, which subsidizes other costs in the office. The dramatic decline in traffic citations have affected the adequacy of the funding model. Today, I'm not here advocating for more traffic citations or to begin charging people whom use the court without cost, but I am here to sound the alarm bell. The current model no longer adequately supports the clerk of the court. The charts I've presented you today includes information relevant to the budget challenges at both the state and the local level. Specifically at the state level, you see that the budgets are down $47.7 million. And in Sarasota, our budget is less than in 2005. Now factor in a CPI adjustment against the 2005 budget, and that results in a $2.4 million less buying power. I rely on the public sector for services such as banking, armored cars, computer maintenance, license fees, et cetera. And all of these costs have risen since 2005 in spite of our efforts to competitively bid services. So I'm going to use this metaphor. Anyone can assume the risk and drive their car carelessly, but inevitably there will be near misses. And likewise, operating the clerk's office without adequate funding has resulted in near misses. As time goes on, both of these situations will lead to someone getting hurt. Together, let's avoid the undesirable result, adequately fund the clerks of court to avoid consequences that will inevitably affect public safety, commerce, and access to justice. I urge you to take an interest in implementing a funding model that provides adequate resources for our community. In the Senate, Senator Brandis has supported a bill that the clerks have put forth, and we hope to have a House sponsor soon. Thank you. I didn't like that change of 15 seconds.
Yes, I have a question, and thank you for your presentation. You're the Sarasota County Clerk of the Court, correct?
I am.
Could you expound upon me as to the revenue sharing as it pertains to red light camera revenue? And do your office deal with that at all or not?
Well, Sarasota County doesn't have cameras. The city does, so that is a revenue to the city. Unless, of course, someone contests the case, and then there might be a court component to a hearing, and then the distribution is slightly different. But the revenue of the fine goes back to the city.
It was brought to my attention by clerks, not just yourself, that when they implemented that, it was an undue burden and unfunded mandated, but as it pertained to staffing and trying to enforce that and process those. That's why I was asking, because you were talking about revenue sharing. I know revenue comes in from that, so that's why I touched on it. But your office doesn't deal with any of that. Is that what you're saying?
When someone contests the red light citation from a camera, it does come through the court, which is the clerk of the court also. But if you pay your citation without contesting the event, then it goes directly to the cities. Unless there's some, local agreement where cities are having the clerks collect certain red light cameras.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Rushing. Minnesota League of Cities, Mayor Shaw.
Good morning, Senator, Representatives. Willie Charles Shaw,
representing the Minnesota League of Cities, and we're seeking your support on several of our initiatives and priorities. One being the Minnesota League of Cities will support legislative efforts to strengthen and protect the rights of Florida citizens to govern themselves under municipal home rule powers conferred by the Florida Constitution. One of our issues is short-term rentals. We would support legislation that repeals the state's preemption of the regulation of short-term rental properties to allow local governments to regulate such properties to protect the health and welfare of residents, visitors, and businesses. We would support changes to existing state law relating to short-term rentals that permit grandfathered local governments to modify existing short-term rental regulations. We also support all of our cities and the state itself with the water quality and preservation of Florida forever. We would seek your support as we go forward with the other initiatives. The last of these three major initiatives is the mental health and sober homes. Florida now ranks 49th in the state, in the country, for mental health issues and the care of mental health. We have real issues when it comes to the unregulated sober homes in the state and the way that they are growing in number throughout the state. We are now seeing them on the West Coast, where we've seen them mainly on the East Coast previously. Your support in helping us to regulate these sober homes would be greatly appreciated. And at this time, I will take any questions anyone may have.
Seeing none, thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, and I yield my time.
Thank you. Sarasota Manatee MPO, Commissioner Hines.
Good morning again. Again, for the record, Charles Hines. The MPO has a meeting today, so they asked me to present their priorities to you all. First of all, I know they've already provided you their entire list in your packet, so hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at those. But they wanted me to highlight two specifically. One you've already heard of, and that's River Road. We've made incredible advances in regards to River Road over the last few years, and now have the state involved in that. It's not just Sarasota Manatee's #1 priority, it's also Charlotte County MPO's priority, so we have a regional impact here. So with the state taking over that road, Sarasota County, through its mobility fees, is also going to pay 1/3 of the cost, but I wanted to highlight to you all is it wasn't just money. Sarasota County also, through a road swap, took over some roads from the state. So I think finally we've worked out a deal that gets this regional hurricane evacuation route in a high growth area in South County with the Atlanta Braves coming and the villages growing. We finally have a plan that's going to work. So please be aware of that, fund it, work with FDOT to make sure that road gets built as soon as possible. The other one you've also heard about that was to be highlighted is a barrier island study, the mobility study. It's difficult these days to build bridges anymore over bays, and so the barrier islands are struggling with traffic issues, getting on and off those islands, and it's clearly a public health and safety issue with an ambulance that needs to go back and forth. So what we need and what this study is important is to see what can we do on and off of these barrier islands through roundabouts, additional lanes, turn lanes that we can do now to help alleviate those problems. And a lot of them are on state roads, so we'll have the state, we'll need help with them. So those are the main two, River Road, the Barrier Island study, and then please take a look at their list of other priorities. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much. See no questions. Sarasota County Healthcare System, David Verinder.
Thank you for having us today. Before I start, I just want to offer my congratulations on behalf of the healthcare system for your elections. And we've enjoyed great relationships with you and look forward to upcoming. You have a copy of our priorities for the coming year, and they focus on preserving our ability to provide highest quality of health care to the large number of growing patients who depend on Sarasota Memorial. Our hospital admissions have grown 40% in the past 5 years, and we really don't see any indication that's going to slow down. To respond to the surging demand, we've been focusing on hiring more nurses and other healthcare professionals, and we're now the county's largest employer at over 6,000 staff members, 1,300 medical staff members, and over 1,000 volunteers. The increased demand also is prompting a need for more physicians. Sarasota Memorial is working hard to bring top-notch doctors to our community through physician residency programs created in partnership with Florida State University. The residents are doctors who have graduated from medical school and are completing their training in their chosen specialty. Most residents end up practicing near where they were trained, so these programs will help ease our physician recruiting shortages going forward. We've launched the county's first and only internal medicine residency program in 2017. The residents work at our hospital and our physician practice in Newtown, making a big difference in the lives of the community members. We are also starting an emergency medicine and palliative care programs this year. Last year, the legislature approved the primary care severe shortage graduate medical education funding initiative to help fund residency programs in our region. We would appreciate your continued support of the initiative this year. Just quickly to mention a couple of the other projects we're working on, we're bringing a new cancer center to Sarasota Memorial and we had a groundbreaking last week out on our university and honorary property. This will be a new 8-story tower on the main campus and in regional sites throughout the area. We're also bringing a new hospital, as everyone knows, to Venice on the corner of Laurel Road and I-75. Look to open that in late 2021. I'm out of time, but I would just like to once again thank you, and we look forward to talking to you in Tallahassee.
You could have an extra 15 seconds for those kind remarks at the beginning. Thank you very much. We have one question, though. Go ahead.
Yes.
Newport needs a hospital, if you're expanding. They'd like to have one too. Northport.
Northport does need a new hospital. We don't disagree with that. We do own property in Northport on 35 acres on the corner of Sumter and I-75, and our plan is to build a hospital there when we can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sarasota County School Board Chair Jane Goodwin.
I, too, want to welcome the 4 new members of this delegation. You all look good sitting in these seats. I want to also thank all of you in the delegation for your service. And I want to talk just specifically about 2 things. I want to thank you for the bills that we're in process of working on. Thank you, Joe, for your leadership. Thank you, Representative Good. Thank you, Representative Buchanan, for helping us with some of the things that we've already talked about. But I want to talk specifically about 2 things: required local effort and the hope that that will not be rolled back. I mean, will not be rolled back. Last year, we got 47 cents in the base student allocation per student, and that is what it takes to put a student in a seat, turn the lights on, bring a teacher in. We can't handle that this year, and I hope that you will encourage those in leadership not to roll it back. The second thing is safety and security, something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. We are in compliance and working very hard on hardening our buildings, on doing more in mental health, and also bringing on more of the school resource officers that we know are required. I just want to ask you in that regard to please encourage flexibility. What's required in Sarasota County, a medium-sized county, is not the same requirements as in Glade County or in Miami-Dade. There are a lot of diverse issues affecting every county, and we need flexibility. So I would just encourage you to do that, but also to put more money into mental health counseling, because we know that's helping us, but we need more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Seeing no questions, Peace River, Minnesota Water Supply, Patrick Lehman.
Yes, good morning, Chairman Grievance, member of the delegation. I'm Patrick Lehman, Executive Director of the Peace River, Minnesota Regional Water Supply Authority, comprised of Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, and DeSoto counties. Certainly want to thank you for your service to the people of Florida in tackling the big issues, and as you've heard over and over, water is one of those big issues. Thanks to the local, regional, state vision and partnership over the years, we have a tremendous water supply system for our region. And as you have heard over and over, that storage is key to our water issues now and into the future. We are leaders in the development of reservoirs and aquifer storage recovery systems to supply our regional needs. We have a continuing project that the state has participated in the past, and we're asking to continue to participate in furthering the technology of aquifer storage recovery that would be beneficial not only to this region but throughout the state by having partially treated water for that usage, which would provide water for future generations in a reliable, environmentally safe, and economical manner. Certainly, we want to thank you for your past partnership and look forward to our continuing partnership. And certainly, as you go through the session, feel free to call upon us for any questions you have as far as water issues. Thank you, and I'll yield the rest of my time to someone else.
Thank you so much. Second District Court of Appeal Counsel, Ida Nemotin.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. My name is Ita Nemotin, and I am the Regional Counsel for the Second District of Appeal. Thank you for allowing me to present today. Regional Counsel defends indigent clients when the public defenders has a conflict. Regional Counsel was created to save money. We've done that in the Second District. The most money that we save excuse me, are within death penalty litigation. We save anywhere from 3 to 5 times the amount of registry attorneys. For this reason, most of our requests are in the death penalty realm. For this legislative session, we are asking for additional death penalty attorneys, mitigation specialists, as well as investigators. We are also asking to convert some of our OPS personnel to FTE employees. The conversion process began last year but was not completed. So we are hoping that with your help we can complete that. I want to thank you for everything you do, and I look forward to working with you in Tallahassee. Thank you.
We got a question. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
You stated you step in when the public defender has a conflict. Could you respond on that?
Thank you, Representative, for that question. Yes, sir. Let's say there is a murder case and there are 2 co-defendants. So the public defender's office would only be able to take 1 co-defendant. The other co-defendant, before we were created, would go to registry. But now we take those cases and we handle them at a great cost-saving measure to the state of Florida. And I personally deal with 5 public defender offices, one of whom is in Sarasota.
Thank you very much.
Thank
The
you.
Sarasota County Economic Development Commission, Jim Boss.
Good morning. Good to be with each one of you again. I want to talk briefly about some of the high points in our list, if I can, please. The first one, and I'm surprised our education friends didn't bring this up because I've talked to most of you about this, and that's relating to the support of workforce education programs. Not only am I chair of the task force for EDC, but I am president of the SAC over at Sarasota Technical College. Many of you do not know our funding is on a 3-year lag basis. So as the technical college has continued to grow down through the years, we're still dealing with dollars from 3 years ago. So if you would take a look at that, the formula needs to be looked at. Also, continuing down on the list, fully funding of Enterprise Florida, support the sales tax changes that have been, shall we say, going through the legislature on a regular basis. And finally, dealing with workforce housing programs. Those are key areas for EDC, and we'd appreciate your attention in those areas, and I'll answer any questions if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Jim. But I will say on behalf of the EDC, you, Jamie Miller, Mark Huey, and the entire EDC team, you guys really did an amazing job with the coding program and the grant that we brought to the schools. I think that's going to pay off dividends 100-fold over the next decade or 2. And like I mentioned at the beginning, you know, this is a team effort, team sport. None of these projects happen without the work of almost everybody involved, everybody at the EDC, everybody up here on the table, on both sides. It was a lot of work, but the EDCs, you guys championed that project, and you guys deserve a lot of credit because that's really a huge thing for our community. So please tell Mark and Jamie Miller that they did a phenomenal job. So
Thank you again for listening, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Northport Chamber of Commerce, Bill Gunnan.
I'm not Bill Gunham, I'm Fred Tower, and the Government
look up.
Relations Committee, and been the chair. I've been coming here 6 years, and we finally made progress on River Road, and everybody's talked about it. What we really need from you all is to change the construction date or work on it with the transportation people up in Tallahassee, is to move the date from 2021. We started at 2024, we're up to 2021. And that's thanks to the Sarasota County Commission and also Northport for putting some funding up. Certificate of need, you've heard about that. I have one question to you, and you can talk to me later or think about it. Certificate of need, every year that goes up in Northport, in Tallahassee. The way that it goes up is it passes in the House and it gets to the Senate and it's completely lost. Northport needs it. We're the largest city without a hospital in the state of Florida. The certificate of need is cumbersome, it's expensive. Please help us and get it through the Senate, those of you that are senators, and I won't point anybody out for that. The other item that we have is workforce housing, training, and that is very important. In the state of Florida right now, skilled help is very difficult to get, and it's very important that we get it. And finally, because we're moving very quickly here, is finally our new governor, we ask you support state funding for issues related to red tide and algae bloom. We need to help our tourist industry. Thank you for the time. I would like to bring one thing up. I'd like to thank the new representative in our district, and it's the first person that ever put an office, the state official, in the city of Northport, and we thank you very much.
Thank you. State College of Florida, Dr. Prosfield.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to present the legislative priorities of the State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota. One of the region's greatest needs aligns perfectly with one of SCF's greatest strengths. SCF is ideally positioned to provide the solution to our regional nursing shortage. The Florida Center for Nursing projects the need for more than 5,200 new nurses in this Suncoast region by 2025. SCF has the state-of-the-art nursing education facilities, the support of area hospitals, and the proven talent to manage an enrollment increase in our Associate of Science in Nursing program. What we lack is the recurring funding to hire the teaching and clinical faculty necessary to expand our nursing student body. We received a record number of applications this fall in 2018, more than 700, many from highly qualified individuals. But regrettably, we can only enroll 80 students each term into our 2-year program with our current level of funding. SCF has among the highest average nursing board exam pass rates in the nation, averaging 98 to 100% for the past decade. Our nursing program is consistently ranked among the top 10 most affordable nursing programs in Florida, with annual tuition for an SCF nursing degree at $3,000, a fraction of the cost of a state university or public college or private college. SCF requests $2.15 million in recurring funding to establish the Nursing Center of Excellence. This funding will allow SCF to increase the annual size of our 2-year nursing program from 160 to 220 and create an innovative telehealth training program. Our goal is to double the size of this life-saving program. I also ask your support to fund a science and technology laboratory building on our Venice campus. This facility will support SCF's strategic university partnerships, including Gator Engineering at SCF, our new Venice campus collegiate school, and enhance our students' retention and degree completion. $1 million of local funding is already committed to this project, reducing our public funding request to $2.5 million. Funding the Nursing Center of Excellence will allow the State College of Florida to do more of what we do best and provide the solution to a looming shortage of highly trained nurses. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and support for the State College of Florida.
Thank you very much, and thank you also for that coding, the work that you guys did with the coding project. I mean, you along with the EDC deserve the credit, so congratulations and thank you for what you do.
Our pleasure, and thank you for your support.
Yeah. USF Sarasota Manatee, Dr. Holbrook.
Good morning, Senator Representatives. Thank you for your very important time, very valuable to us. I am here to seek support for two primary initiatives. One is for recurring funding for our faculty, which we have lost over the past few years, and to begin the construction of an ISTIC building, Integrated Science and Technology Complex. As you may know, the University of South Florida Sarasota Manatee has on the agenda to build a 75,000 square foot technology complex to fulfill our commitment to prepare students who are entering the workforce in this area. And I can tell you that 92% of our students that graduate from USFSM stay here in Florida. 26% go on to graduate programs. The other 65% go on to work in the public and private sector. But with consolidation of USFSM is scheduled to add 37 new programs, primarily in the areas of strategic emphasis, being engineering, nursing, and other programs in science and technology, allied health in particular. These are to meet Sarasota's and Manatee's and Florida's workforce needs and to contribute to economic development in the region. These new programs require both faculty and the research resource. Plans have been made for a state-of-the-art building that will house new programs, provide space for student and faculty research. Right now, we have no laboratories in our existing building. This building is going to be purpose-driven, dynamic, evolutionary, and a symbol and in reality a creative space where learning and career preparation are aligned. The building is also planned as a community building so that we can house projects and programs here, such as the one we just did last Friday on adaptation to climate change, and such as the one that was done with education leaders in December, reading readiness solutions so that our students, our young students, get past third grade reading and get through their elementary and their high school and can go on to be college students. The ISTIC building will be a major attractant to both students and to faculty in this region. It will prepare a high-tech workforce, business-minded students, support entrepreneurial activities, and raise the profile of USFSM in the community. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you. I want to comment on the, I did meet with your board, and I was also impressed with the sustainability, or like I like to call it, the succession planning. You know, what I'm finding out, and also for the record, I serve on higher ed approach. That's one of my committees that I serve on. And what I'm seeing more times than not, as leadership changes the realm, the boards get combobulated, if you will, because the new individual coming in have their own mindset of what they want to do and how they want to do it, and sometimes it differs with what the board does, but the board does not hold them in check. Therefore, the university ends up on the front page of a lot of this media, and we have one right now in front of us doing just that. So I want to commend USF on that. Also, to let my colleagues know what has happened through the consolidation. As I mentioned, I serve Hillsborough, Manatee, Sarasota, and Pinellas. We have the main campus in USF in Tampa. We have USF St. Pete, and also I have USF Minnesota. You just heard 37 new programs. You also now, through the consolidation, have a preeminent university. Preeminence. Only two we had prior to that was Florida and Florida State. Now we have one right here in our backyard. Hear me now. A student can get a 4-year degree from a preeminent university without even leaving home. That's very valuable and attractive in the workforce. But there are needs. That's the only campus I think has no housing. So kids can't stay there. They can't stay at a preeminent university, which kind of don't make any sense, and also labs. So I like the planning of the forward thinking and try to make sure we have that on there. And they got that in their plan. So no matter who comes or goes, not that you're going anywhere, we're going to already pull you out of retirement, they can follow along and keep that going and keep the relationship going with the people who support that, because it gets a little confusing as we get new leadership and they want to go another direction when they're already going down one road. But I want to thank you for your leadership at the helm over there and everything you're doing for the students and the the workforce here in Sarasota and also Manatee County.
Thank you. And if I could add one quick note, thank you very much for your comments. They're greatly appreciated. But I would also tell you that the task force on consolidation has put 2 buildings into the consolidation report that will be revealed tomorrow. One is our residence hall, and the second is our STEM building. So thank you.
Thank you. New College of Florida, Dr. O'Shea.
So, Senator and Representatives, I'm Don O'Shea, President of New College of Florida. Thanks very much for the opportunity to be here and for your support. In 2006, the Board of Governors endorsed a multi-year plan to increase the size of New College by 50%. By 2023, we will have 1,200 students, and at least 80% of that class that will graduate, the one that comes in that year. Accomplishing that will move us into the top handful of residential arts and science colleges in the country, public or private, period. The legislature funded the first 2 of 3 installments of recurring money that we need. Thanks so much for that. This year, we request the final installment, $1.64 million, to fund the final, to close out the recurring money that we need. This is one of 5 institution-specific priorities approved by the Board of Governors for inclusion in the state university system budget request. There's also a non-recurring piece to our growth request that's absolutely crucial, and that's also supported by the Board of Governors. We need the space to house the growth. The problem's compounded by the age of our buildings. They're gorgeous, but they're old. 5 are more than 90 years old. 40% are more than 45 years old. They're not accessible for anybody with any mobility issues. We plan to add a 100,000 square foot multi-purpose facility that would undergird student services, our expanded academic program, and administrative support. The initial cost estimate for that was $47 million. For the 2019 session, the Board of Governors is supporting a request for $6 million from PICO funds to start planning, followed by $14 million to be appropriated in 2020, and the final $27 million phase would be requested in the following years. So please fund at least that $6 million in the coming year, and of course, if you find more dollars, we'd love them. Thank you for the consideration.
Thank you, Dr. O'Shea. See no questions. Cross College Alliance, Linda DeMello.
Good morning. I am Linda DeMello, the manager of the Cross College Alliance. As you know, the Cross College Alliance was formed through the visionary leadership of the presidents of State College of Florida, New College of Florida, USF Sarasota Manatee, Ringling College of Art and Design, and the Ringling Museum, FSU. Our presidents believe that they and their institutions can be more and do more for our community by working together. And it is because of their commitment that I'm here to ask you to invest in the development of a new CCA Center for Creativity, Collaboration, and Competitiveness. We believe that the Center for Creativity, Collaboration, and Competitiveness will enable us to differentiate and advantage our region's students, workforce, economy, and quality of life by strategically leveraging the collective expertise and unique assets of the 5 Cross College Alliance institutions and those of Manatee and Sarasota counties, while also benefiting from the expertise of new leadership and the development of new resources. The center's mission is to collaboratively create and provide new learning opportunities and leading-edge courses in creativity and collaboration, as well as critical new resources that will foster a vibrant regional ecosystem of creativity, innovation, and collaboration that is essential to our region's competitiveness and success. Our request is simple, but its impact far-reaching. Your decision, in large measure, will determine if the economic and technological disruptions that we are experiencing marginalize or embolden us. The leadership and performance of our CCA presidents speaks for itself. It is with that promise and their commitment that I ask you to support and invest in the CCA Center for Creativity, Collaboration, and Competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no questions. Visit Sarasota, Virginia Haley.
Thank you, Senator. Representatives, Virginia Haley. I am president of Visit Sarasota County, and I have the honor of being the incoming chair of the Visit Florida Board of Directors starting in July. I want to thank Senator Gruters for introducing the legislation to reauthorize Visit Florida. We cannot afford to let Visit Florida sunset in October, and I especially don't want that on my watch as chair. We also hope Visit Florida's funding would be continued at present levels. Visit Florida is extremely important for the medium-sized communities such as Sarasota and Manatee County. We rely on them to reach a greater audience than we could on our own, and they were amazing partners as we went through the travails of the red tide crisis, both in terms of the messaging, monitoring what people were saying about our area, and in the grants that we received from Visit Florida. I want to thank all of you for the initiatives that you already have underway regarding water quality. That's obviously a very important issue, as we all learned this year, and for the bills you've already filed. And then thank you very much for the legislation, Senator, on the beach smoking bans.
Thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about, because more than anybody else, you guys have been hit in terms of our local businesses because of red tide. Can you tell us a little bit about what they're going through and what some of their concerns and issues are?
It's very challenging. Part of it is because it's the first time we've had this intense of a red tide in the age of the fast photograph video with your cell phone. And so we've got those lingering issues and questions about red tide. So not only did we lose business August through December, but in looking out at the next 3 months, the business is still off. So it's having a real massive lingering effect. We had our numbers in October through December, and they're the biggest drops we've had since 9/11.
And do you know if has Visit Florida partnered with you guys to try to shed a light that we're open for business here on the Gulf Coast? And can you explain what you guys do with them to try to make that happen?
Yes, Visit Florida has mounted an aggressive social media campaign with tactics such as Facebook Lives from our beaches, time-stamp photography so the people know these are the real current conditions, advertising campaign, and then grant money. So we have a Google Map campaign that they will be adding 500 new images. So when visitors are searching our area, they'll see how truly beautiful it is. And then direct grants so we can do our own campaigns right here in Sarasota.
Thank you for going to bat for our community on a consistent basis. You guys do an amazing job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moat Marine, Dr. Crosby.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all, and I do want to thank you all for your dedicated service to the citizens of this community and to the state of Florida. We've got a very strong delegation, and we're very proud of you. So we look forward to working with you on a number of priorities. You have our priorities before you. Our legislative priorities revolve around 3 core themes. One is to grow the research enterprise of Moat Marine Laboratory to address many of the challenges that our oceans and our community faces. The second is to translate and transfer the science and the technology for greater impact in conservation, sustainable use of our environment, addressing many of these grand challenges, and stimulating our economy. And the third is to give back in terms of service to our community and try to enhance the overall level of ocean literacy amongst everyone in this community. And you've heard today already previous speakers mention two of our legislative priorities. The first is red tide. It has been a disastrous last year with red tide, its impact to our ecology, our economy, our quality of life, and it's time for us to use the science and technology that we have to do something different, to change the paradigm of how we are dealing with red tide. And very pleased I've worked with all of you, and Senator Gruters, I know you're going to be putting forward a bill here to launch the new independent Florida Red Tide Mitigation and Technology Development Initiative. This is a game changer for how we are going to be able to use applied science, develop those technologies, those tools that we can deploy to decrease the impacts of red tide, and we can do this. The other is workforce development, STEM education. That's a core of our new science education aquarium, and I thank Representative Gregory and Senator Gruters for helping us with that funding request as well. And I see I've got 2, 3, 1, no seconds. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Crosby. And I'll say that that Red Tide initiative, where we're trying to get you those recurring funds, although I'm running that bill, that's one of the cases where our entire delegation has been active in the discussion. And it's only going to, something like that, it's somewhat of a big lift, and it's only going to pass with all of us pushing at the same time. And I know we're all committed to making that happen. So thank you for what you guys do at Marine and your leadership. So.
Well, we're not going to be able to succeed in this without the unified, strong support of this entire delegation, and I know we have it. I've talked to you all. We're in this together, and we're going to make this happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Crosby. Sarasota Arts Alliance, Jim Shirley.
Thank you, Senator, and thank all of you for the work you do for us. I'm here today representing all of the arts and cultural organizations in Sarasota County as the umbrella organization for them. And I can say to you clearly, Sarasota County is the cultural capital of the state of Florida. It's one of our major strengths in this region, and it's a way that we can all pull together to help use that strength to continue to grow our area. My ask of you this year is very simple. We would love for you all to help support the passage of the DCA Cultural Grants Programs, which are under the Secretary of State. They have already been reviewed, they have been ranked, they have been recommended, and if we were to be able to fully fund the DCA grant program this year for the state of Florida, it would bring over $4 million to Sarasota County and our arts and cultural organizations. Pure and simple. The red tide is affecting all of us. It is affecting our arts and cultural organizations. On the positive side of that, though, is our arts and cultural organizations are one of the major attractors for both tourists and then people who ultimately end up being high-end residents to come here. And they come here, and if we got a red tide going, they can go inside, they can go to the theater, they can go to the opera, they can go to all of these great organizations that help define our region, but we need your help in providing that funding for them to get there. I want to remind you that those are matching grants. So if we got the $4 million for Sarasota County, our organizations are matching that dollar for dollar. You've got an $8 million impact for the community just by taking advantage of that granting program. So I thank you all. I know you all understand the importance of the arts here, but we want you to know how much we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Jim. What percentage was this fund funded last year?
Last year, this fund was funded at about 5%.
So
statewide.
In years past, it's gone from 100% down to 5%, and you guys get your respective share throughout the county. And I can't stress how important it is that we do fully fund that. And I know everybody up on here on this board, as a matter of fact, when this is all over, I'm going to make it try to be one of our delegation priorities that we push that this fund gets fully funded. And I tell people, and twice on the House floor, I used your line, the fact that we are the cultural capital of Florida and how important it is. And I just want all the community groups out there, because I know after the last session, I know there were some articles where people were upset that it wasn't fully funded. And I just want people to know that this delegation is so committed to arts and the culture and making sure that we're fully funded across the board. We will fight hard and we'll do everything we can, but what we need is we need people shouting from the rooftops in other parts of the state, because we are only one community out of 67. And this is one of those projects that it's a statewide thing. And, but I know it's important to our community, 7,500 jobs, and we'll do all we can to be the champions of it.
Well,
So,
thank you, and we'll be there to support you and provide all the backup we can for you, and we really appreciate your efforts.
thank you, Jim. Selby Gardens, Jennifer Romanecki.
Just to add, it's wonderful to hear your endorsement of the arts and culture organization. So thank you, Chairman and members of the delegation, for the opportunity to appear before you on behalf of Marie Selby Botanical Gardens, and our deep gratitude to each of you who helped us gain this year's appropriation from the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. I'm Jennifer Romanecki, President and CEO of Selby Gardens, and we ask for your support of our funding request. I did want to thank Senator Gruters and Representative Gregory for agreeing to sponsor our request. Thank you so much. And just by way of background, Selby Gardens has the best scientifically documented collection of orchids in the world. We attract more than 200,000 visitors annually, and our economic impact is more than 12 million annually. We conduct projects that benefit our community and state, such as supporting IFAS by sharing material from our living collection and carrying out rare plant restoration in the Everglades. So Selby Gardens really serves the entire state, the nation, and the world. Since 2015, the Gardens has experienced rapid growth. Admissions has increased 47%. Membership increased 60% to more than 13,000 households. That's making us the largest member attraction in our area. And damage by Hurricane Irma last year underlined the need for Selby Gardens to act now to protect our scientific collections. Our master plan will allow Selby Gardens to add 50% more green space, become an international model for the latest green building technology, and return clean water to the bay, safeguard and showcase our collections, accommodate our rapidly growing visitor base, and connect the underserved family and children in our region to the wonders of Selby Gardens. In October, we announced that we had commitments of more than $21.8 million in place. That is a direct response to matching state funding, which really incentivizes the private sector. Our economic impact of Phase 1 will be $49 million and 1,800 jobs, and the impact of the entire project is expected to be $78.5 million and 3,000 jobs. We hope to break ground on Phase 1 near the end of 2019, and I thank you for your consideration and your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sarasota Bay Project, Bill Waddle.
Good morning. Bill Waddell, Managing Director of the Sarasota Bayfront Planning Organization, and speaking on behalf of our 53-acre waterfront park initiative, known as the Bay. First, I'd like to thank you for your time and your service. We're grateful to have the opportunity to ask the delegation for its support for this very important Phase 1 of our broad-based community effort that answers all the aspirations of all ages, all lifestyles, all neighborhoods, and of all citizens. This visionary effort to date has been 100% privately funded, the largest piece of it by a consortium of area foundations. And in fact, 75% of Phase 1 will also be privately funded. And so we're not relying on government to create the aspirational vision, but we are asking for our state to be our partner. Our submittal in your packet provided an extensive description of our project's benefits, including how our project will be enhancing our environment, our bay, and our Gulf with our improvements. We'll be strengthening our neighborhoods by providing a place for our community to come together. We'll be addressing pedestrian safety for people who want to walk around our community and enjoy its amenities without a car. Some of you may have seen the recent article that showed in a nationwide study our Sarasota Manatee MSA is the 4th most deadly region for walkers of the 100 largest MSAs in our country. And so we want to be visionaries and innovators to address this alarming statistic. We will be increasing property values, and central to Sarasota County's tourism strategic plan, sales tax receipts. We'll be strengthening our region as Florida's cultural capital and cultural coast. We'll be providing meaningful civic and park space, which strengthens the fabric of communities and sets them apart. We've designed this master plan cooperatively with many community partners with over 170 community meetings, workshops, and presentations to date. And we will continue this spirit of engagement and cooperation. So on behalf of our organization, we commit to be the best stewards with whatever resources our delegation is able to obtain and continue with our high standards of transparency, inclusion, and excellence in every way. Again, thank you for your time and your service.
Thank you. That project's going to be awesome once it's done.
It is. We're excited.
Thank you. Florida Natural Heritage, Jonah Miller.
Senator and representatives, my name is John O'Miller. I'm not representing any organization today. I don't need to tell you that in 2014, the constituents of your districts overwhelmingly passed Amendment 1, the Florida Land and Water Conservation Amendment. Voters were not voting on a measure to free up general funds for other undetermined projects. It wasn't meant for sewage treatment plants, executive leadership, risk management, leather chairs, and a variety of other things these funds have been spent on. They were voting to protect Florida's natural heritage. And here in Sarasota, as you know, citizens have voted twice to tax themselves for local land acquisition. We just passed a $65 million referendum for the Legacy Trail. And Senator, you had mentioned your hope of bringing as many resources back to the area as possible. And I think you have this in your packet. Since that referendum passed, Sarasota County has sent $64.8 million to Tallahassee as 1/3 of our dock stamp taxes. There's so much, when Sarasota sends $1 to Tallahassee, we don't expect to get $1 back. But when we send $65 million, it would be good to get more than we have gotten back. It has done a few projects out at Mayaca Park, but it would be great if more of those dollars could come back here to Sarasota. There's so much we could do. As mentioned earlier, Warm Mineral Spring and Little Salt Springs are really Florida's forgotten springs. You can still go online and find maps of Florida springs that do not include these two. They're really unique in terms of the geology, the fossils, the ecology. They're just really unique. And they're very small springs with small flow. They need help. And so the legislature dedicates 7.6% of Amendment 1 dollars for springs. That would have been $5 million for these, for right here in Sarasota that we haven't gotten. So when your colleagues are adopting legislation for springs, please make sure some of that is directed. And 9 seconds. And please help fund New College's building. We can't really reach our goals without getting those dollars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Women's Resource Center, National Alliance for Mental Health, Colleen Thayer.
Good morning. I'm Colleen Thayer, President and Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Illness here in Sarasota County. I welcome all of you to the delegation. Congratulations. NAMI is the largest grassroots mental health organization in the country. We represent individuals living with mental illness, their families, and their caregivers. And our affiliate here in Sarasota is one of 26 in Florida, one of more than 500 nationwide. We are actually getting ready to bring NAMI Manatee into our fold here in Sarasota, so we'll be working on expanding. Locally, more than 60,000 individuals live with mental health issues every year in our community. And NAMI offers support groups, education classes, and resources to connect those individuals and families with the resources in our community. We also support the local providers here, many of whom you will hear from, and try to connect people with the resources that are available so that people can live in recovery. To that end, the information that I provided in your packet lists just a few items that we support for the upcoming session, including parity for individuals living with mental illness and strong mental health services for students in schools, including support services. Jane Goodwin from the school board mentioned mental health counselors, and we strongly support that effort. We also support the support services that go along with the actual counseling services. As additional legislations filed will be on mental health issues, we will be happy to share our information and be a resource for you on that. We're also partners in the Community Alliance of Sarasota County and support the behavioral health services that you have in your folders that others are going to speak about. I've met with several of you individually and look forward to meeting with the rest of you in the coming weeks. NAMI, first and foremost, is a resource for you. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions on mental health. I'm happy to answer them. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Women's Resource Center, Ashley Brown.
Good morning, and thank you for being here today, and congratulations on our new representatives. My name is Ashley Brown, and I'm the president and CEO of the Women's Resource Center, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of our clients. And I want to start with a story of one of our clients who's a single mother of two, and her entry level as a teller in a bank allows her to receive government assistance in the form of Section 8 housing subsidies, child care subsidies, SNAP, and TANF. She's a hard worker, so she got the opportunity to get a raise, but she had to look at what that raise would mean, which was losing all the benefits she was eligible for. So she had to decide not to take a raise in order to stay on government assistance. This is known as the benefits cliff. At the Women's Resource Center, we see over 250 women a month coming to us for counseling, guidance, and support as they go through life's transitions. 80% of them live below sustainable wages. In our community, there's a report called the ALICE report. Asset limited, income constrained, employed. I like everybody's nodding. They're like, we've got it. But the reality is 33% of Sarasota residents or families and 43% of Manatee families live below this. These women and their families are trying to work towards self-sufficiency, but our rules keep them in a cycle of poverty. And I know that this isn't what's intended, and I think we have the opportunity to change the future for these women and their families. We're really excited next month, probably in about 2 weeks, we're gonna get the new report, so it'll be interesting to see where we are now, because cost of living, housing, transportation, all of that is increasing in our region, and our wages are staying stagnant. And not only is this an issue for the women, but the employers as well. And if in your packet, you'll see a report from the Florida Chamber of Commerce who supports the solution of the benefits cliff. So we're respectfully asking that you initiate legislation and administrative policies that help to pave such pathways for the benefit of families, employers, and our economy. In 4 seconds.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
We got a question. Yep.
Thank you, Senator. I know this all too well, being one of 8 of a single divorced female, raising 8 kids off government subsidies.
Bless your mother.
Every time you try to step up, they pull you back, and it's tragic, but it's almost like it's designed to keep you right where you're at. I had, in my 8 years on council in St. Pete, I had a lot of people approach me because they made $1 or $2 too much to receive assistance. This is what's known as the working poor. We keep hearing about record level low unemployment, but you also keep hearing about tourism. Those are service level jobs that do not carry benefits or enough wages to afford living. That's why we need more availability of workforce housing, not affordable housing. People keep thinking about affordable housing, thinking it's a giveaway. But what's happening is they work and make just enough to be poor, and they can't afford these houses, you know? So we got to definitely look at ways to try to help with that. You know, it's a lot of women, not just with them being trapped in that, they also make less than men. So when they do get an opportunity to retire, it's the gift that keeps on giving because they retire on less than. But yeah, we definitely need to try to figure out ways to address that. On a federal level, you know, I had my father-in-law, my wife's mom passed away, and he wanted to have a companion and remarry. But they can't because they'll lose all the federal stuff too. So it's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So it's kind of a catch-22, but we got to find a better way. If we truly talking about doing certificate classes, getting people retrained until they can earn higher wages to get them off of those cycles, then we also got to make a pathway, because while they're doing that, if they lose their child care, they may get a raise, but the child care that they were getting now goes away, and they don't make enough money for that or the houses where they live. So we got to figure out a balance to help them transition out of that, the ones that truly are wanting to do that, because that's what we want. We don't want everybody, you know, on subsidies, but the problem is, if they, like I say, like you say, if they try to make $1 or more, or try to advance themselves or better themselves, then they're right back where they started, so.
No, I appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. Community
you.
Addiction Recovery Program, Paul Sutton.
Hi. I'm honored to be joined by Major Whiten, the area commander for the Sarasota Salvation Army. I'm here today to speak about a priority for the Community Alliance. It's the homeless priority, and it's the issue that affects so many parts of our lives, and it's substance abuse. I'm going to give you 4 reasons why we made it a priority at the Sarasota Community Alliance, and I'm going to ask you to make it a delegation priority as well. The 4 reasons are, number 1, overdose deaths. There are so many people at such young ages dying that for the first time in all of our lifetimes, the average life expectancy is actually dropping. And it's because the number 1 reason for accidental deaths is substance abuse. Number 2 is children. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about children today. You're going to hear that foster care is overwhelmed, that there aren't enough foster care homes. The reason there aren't enough foster care homes is that 60% of the children that are placed into protective custody into foster care are placed there because of substance abuse by their parents. Number 3 priority, homelessness. You're going to hear a lot about homelessness. Today, as a matter of fact, we're doing a point-in-time survey where they're going to go out and in the next 24 hours try to contact all the homeless individuals and do a survey of those individuals. They're going to ask them what their disabling condition is. The number 1 disabling condition among the homeless is substance abuse. And number 4, investing in substance abuse is a great investment. You get $11 back for every $1 invested, and that's according to the U.S. Surgeon General. You'll save $4 in medical costs, and you'll save $7 in criminal justice costs. It costs less to have someone in a recovery program than to have them in Sarasota County Jail. The Salvation Army offers a program where for 10 weeks an individual is housed, they get counseling, they get treatment, and at the end of that, they get help placed into homes, they get case management, and they get a bill. The bill is for $0.00. This is a program that can move people from homeless to homes, that can move people from children from not having parents to reuniting families. In fact, it's estimated that people who complete a program like this are 50% more likely to have family reunification. So for the sake of children, for the sake of the homeless, for the sake of saving lives, for the sake of a good investment, I hope you will make the delegation priority the Sarasota Community Alliance recommendation, which is the Community Addiction Recovery Program. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Paul. What is the success rate of your program, the Salvation Army?
1 year after commencement, more than 70% of those individuals are still sober. This is an abstinence-based program, and that's a phenomenal success rate.
I always, when I was up in Tallahassee, roam the halls, and I always say, if there's one program that should get funded based on the success rate, it's the Salvation Army substance abuse program, because it's abstinence-based, and they have the highest success rate. And people just look over me, and it's and I hope that we can go out there and get you more funds so we get more people on that program. But thank you for the success you guys have.
Thank you. And I wanted to thank you for your support, and also Representative Gregory. And again, I hope it can be a delegation priority, because I know it's a big challenge to get new funding. So thank you.
Thank you. Area Agency for the Aging, Christine O'Donnell. And we're going to take one more after that, Academy for Glengarry. We are literally 5 minutes ahead, so we're going to have a 5-minute quick break, and then we'll do the remaining 30.
Good morning. I'm Kirsten O'Donnell with the Area Agency on Aging for Southwest Florida. The Area Agency on Aging, or as we call ourselves, the AAA, serves 7 counties, including Sarasota. Area agencies are the state's designated aging and disability resource centers. Statewide, the 11 area agencies manage about $250 million in state and federally funded programs for older adults and adults with disabilities. In addition to managing this funding, we also oversee the programs that are designed to assist Florida's most vulnerable seniors. These programs include in-home services like personal care, meals, hygiene, Alzheimer's respite, and caregiver support. These in-home services are a win-win. Folks obviously appreciate the opportunity to age in place, to live at home instead of a nursing home. And by stabilizing these frail seniors at home, the state saves taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. The home-based services cost the state about $7,000 to $8,000 a year per senior on average. But if that same senior ends up in a nursing home, care for him or her would cost about $87,000 in Medicaid nursing home expenses per year. So that's a savings of $80,000 for every at-risk senior in the program every year, or an 11-to-1 return on the taxpayer's investment. Now, of course, the system isn't perfect, right? Seniors are the fastest growing segment of our population, nationwide, statewide, here in Sarasota County, where 43% of our residents are over age 60. Funding isn't keeping up with the increase in our elder population, and there are tens of thousands of needy seniors on a waiting list for services statewide, including 870 waiting in Sarasota County alone. Programs are also understaffed for the need. Your packet includes our legislative asks and priorities for the upcoming session, including increased funding for home-based services to reduce that waiting list. Our agency's statewide priorities also include additional staffing to conduct the state's required screenings for these services, relief from unreimbursed administrative costs for the state's Alzheimer's support program, and a budget set aside for elder victims of elder abuse. We'd be happy to discuss these in more detail, and of course, we're available as a resource for your questions as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In the Academy of Glengarry, Joan Geyer.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. I'm the board chair of the Academy at Glengarry, but I'm going to yield my time to our executive director, William McKeever.
Good morning, Senator Gruder and honorable representatives. Thank you for your service to our community. I'd like to give you an update on our progress at the Academy, as well as make a request. The Academy at Glengarry was formed, started about 4 years ago, a grassroots effort to help provide one of the solutions that is needed in the area of mental health. And I'm talking about schizophrenia, bipolar, major depression. You know, sometimes I ask folks, what do you think someone with a serious mental illness needs? The typical response, I think, is psychiatry, medication, clinical supports, and that is very true. Without a doubt, it's true. But there's an aspect that we are providing as a piece to that solution, which is vocational training and employment. Nationwide, statewide, nationwide, the rate of unemployment for folks with a psychiatric illness is 85 to 90%, which is 1 in 10 are actually working. So if you think, those of you that might be accountants, if you think about the cost on our society of benefits, emergency care, hospitalization. So our job is to create a training area and provide supported employment for folks. We are part of the Florida Clubhouse Coalition, and we've, in a short amount of time, been able to provide a leadership role there. We had a statewide conference in October on supported employment. So my request to you is, the last 2 years, Department of Children and Families has funded supported employment across the state. We have not been included in that, but we recently achieved our accreditation. So I've provided in your packet a budget request that's part of the general revenue for DCF. It's a $1.5 million, which of that, $136,000 would come to Sarasota. So I ask your support bringing that funding to Sarasota and those much needed services for supported employment for folks with a mental health diagnosis. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will take a 5-minute break and come back at 10:36. Thank you. outside? Okay, yeah. I'd like to call this meeting back to order. We'll wait for the Honorable Good and Gregory. Thank you, Representative Robinson, Buchanan, and Newton, for being timely. The Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast, Christine Johnson.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about land conservation. I'm Christine Purvis Johnson. I'm president of the Conservation Foundation of the Gulf Coast. Our not-for-profit's mission is to save land, to protect those places that make a difference in our lives, giving us clean water to drink, protecting habitat for plants and animals, beautiful natural places to enjoy, great spots to hike and fish, and a reason to live, work, and play here on Florida's Gulf Coast. Our work saving land benefits residents and tourists alike. In fact, our environment is our economy. Sure, people come to Florida for the warmth and weather, but they choose to come to Sarasota and the Gulf Coast because of its natural beauty, like Myakka River State Park and Robinson Preserve, each of which is an attractor as well as an attraction. Protecting our iconic and unique natural environment takes time and money, as well as multiple partners from the public and private sectors. Conservation Foundation is known for facilitating these complicated and complex projects, but we need your help. Please protect the Florida Land Acquisition Trust Fund, also known as Florida Forever. We need not only for it to be fully funded, but used for saving land as the Florida voters intended in November 2014. Please do not allow new legislation to use Florida Forever to build reservoirs and gray infrastructure. While those projects are needed, that is not what the voters wanted the Land Acquisition Trust Fund to be used for. Conserving land is a tool in the toolbox that must be used to ensure we have drinkable, fishable, swimmable water. Land filters nutrients, holding water so that pollutants and nutrients do not flow into our waterways. Conserving the right land is more fiscally conservative than building water treatment plants. Save land helps water quantity issues. Land holds water, preventing flooding. Allows water to seep down, recharging the aquifer as well as our surface water sources. Land buffers against stormwater and storm surges. Conserving the right land is more fiscally conservative than building infrastructure to combat storm water issues. Land conservation helps our economy grow and be diverse. Conserved private land helps working land stay in working hands, and conserved public land drives tourism and gives residents a quality of life that we all value. Fully fund Land Acquisition Trust Fund and ensure that those funds are used as the voters intended to acquire land.
Thank you, Representative Newton.
Yes, I just wanted to share with you, we were successful last session in getting $1 million put into the Florida Forever Fund. I know with the passing of Amendment 1 that has not been fully implemented, but it's a start. I know a lot of people, they're upset because it wasn't the amounts that they thought, but I'm an optimist, so I look at it as a table. So if you give us a table, we can start putting stuff on it. But you're right, we got to, preserve the progress that we made to that end and try to go forward. But I want to just share that comment with you.
Thank you. We have projects here locally for those funds.
Thank you very much. Yes, Margaret.
Christine.
I'm sorry, Christine Johnson. Come on back.
Christine, I just want to say thank you. We spend so much time talking about water quality and water quality issues, and I think it's so important to link that to land preservation and how important it is to have open spaces and open land in order to have clean water. So thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of our favorite projects, the All-Star Children Foundation. Lucia Branton, along with Dennis and Grassi.
So good morning. Good morning. And I'd like to start with saying thank you, Senator Gruters and Representative Robinson, for supporting and sponsoring our request, which is to ask the state of Florida to help us complete the construction of our campus that is going to be used for children when they're first removed from their home and provide a safe and nurturing environment for them. It's no secret that in spite of all the good efforts, amazing skill, and dedication of the people who've chosen to work in child welfare, that our system fails far too many children. First of all, our campus, and you can see out there, which is currently under construction, and we expect to finish open up by the end of this year. And it includes a 13,000 square foot treatment center, 6 individual family style homes, and a community center. On this campus, and this is the heart of what we're talking about, we will be delivering an innovative and comprehensive trauma-informed treatment and research program, which we believe will become the gold standard for healing childhood trauma and be a model for the rest of the state. This comprehensive approach includes not only the latest evidence-based trauma therapy protocols, but also we're going to have significant enrichment programs for our children. We are going to be having parenting training for trauma-informed parenting training, not just for biological parents, but also for foster parents. And we're going to have a very meaningful community-based volunteer program. So this, we're going to run out of time. I think I'd like to conclude by saying by addressing the root problem of the poor outcomes in the foster care system, we are going to bring an end to this multi-generational cycle of child abuse and provide the children that are most vulnerable with the opportunity for a healthy and productive lives. Thank you.
Thank you from the bottom of our heart for listening to us tell our story and helping us make this a safer world for children.
You guys are absolute superstars for our community. Thank you for what you do for the children that are sometimes forgotten and abandoned. So you guys are absolutely amazing with what you guys have done and what the vision is and what you guys are setting up here. Representative Newton has a comment.
How many, you didn't share, how many kids or individuals will you house at
Glad
this
you asked that.
facility?
That was
You
the
didn't
one
say
piece
that.
I left out. So on the campus, we will serve between 60 and 80 children each year on the residential piece. But we're also conducting outpatient services, and we expect to provide service to over 200 children a year.
In our clinical treatment building.
Thank you, Vanna. No, just kidding.
Vanna White.
I see you have foster on there. What about aging out? Are you doing anything about that?
We are not. We are laser focused on first removals and to deal with early childhood trauma. And there's only so much, there are people who are dealing with aging out. The problems that we have to deal with are broad and deep. And so we're laser focused and trying to get the children early to deal with early childhood trauma, because that's the heart of our program.
Yeah,
Follow me, sir.
early childhood trauma is like post-traumatic stress on adults. And what it is these children, that's their normal. And so part of that, and it really does affect the physiology of the brain. So that's what we're going to be dealing with, is really brain science and how we can treat these children so that they can, with the plasticity of the brain, how we can heal them from abuse.
Well, the reason I ask is you got licensed foster home on your sign, I think 7 times, or 6, that's on counting, right? What I'm saying is, when they're done with you, when they age out, that's what I'm concerned with, because, hold on one second, let me finish. When they age out, they become candidates for the homeless population. That's why I'm asking you, in that, are you just treating them, and then when they age out, they're gone? Or, 'cause I'm not saying, are you doing anything about it? You have it on your sign. So I'm wondering about when they get of age and they age out of assistance, what is happening at that point?
So our program is focused on the campus, or when children are first removed from the home. So the average age is going to be anywhere from infants up, we'll take up to 18, but most of the average age is going to be 10, 12, something like that. So, and this is a transitional facility. So we're going to do intense therapy with the children, as well as the other programs that I mentioned. And then at the end of, on the average, 6 months with us, the children will either be returned to their biological parents, because we're going to work with the biological parents, or they're going to be then placed in a more permanent foster home. and we will then train those foster parents to accept these children. So it is, we will not, it's unlikely that the children on our campus will move into aging out while they're in our care.
Yeah, we're the intensive care. Instead of like the children currently now are removed by in the back of a police car, sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning with only the clothes on their back, and they're in the police car, Department of Children and Families, and where are we going to put these children? And so now we have this facility. When the children are first removed from the home, they come to our facility. They are triaged. We see where they are emotionally, and then we'll work with them, their biological parents, their teachers, their social workers, their caseworkers, their guardian ad litem, everybody that comes in contact with that child, because the child who's been abused has reactive problems, different problems than a child who's been grown up in a loving, nurturing care. So that's what we are. We're the intensive care. We're going to transform the whole child welfare system by the way we are dealing with these children that come into our facility.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. You guys do a great job. Thank you.
Great. Thank you
Next up-
so much.
Next up is Sarasota, Florida, Dr. Chan.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Britt Chan. I'm the chief resident at Centerstone Psychiatry Residency. About 7 years ago, our then medical director had a vision with some of his colleagues to start a residency that would produce well-trained and well-qualified psychiatrists in the local areas. 4 years ago, this came into fruition, and last year, June 2018, we just graduated our inaugural class. All 3 stayed in Florida. I graduate this June, and I will also be staying in the local area. So last year, we asked for and received $500,000, and boy, did we put it to good use. We have residents in Northport Health Department, Sarasota and Manatee County Jails, Sarasota and Manatee County Drug Courts, and also First Step in Sarasota. This year, we're asking for double, $1 million. And here's the reason why. We have currently 16 residents, and we just finished our interview cycle, accepting 4 more this June. And so if you think about it, of the $1,950,000 just go to resident salaries and benefits alone. We want to expand our services even more. Please help us do that with the money. Our residents, many of them, and the applicants that we interview grew up in Florida. They went to medical school in Florida. They want to remain in Florida. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Florida Home Builder Association, John Mast. Good. 3 minutes ahead. Healthy Start, Sarah Dawson. That took up for Representative Newton's comments in the last one.
Good morning, Senator Gruters, representatives, thank you for your time and service today. My name is Sarah Dawson Olison. I am with the Healthy Start Coalition of Sarasota County. Our executive director, Sean Ewan, sends her apologies. She was going to be here, so you didn't have to hear me again. However, she is home with a sick child today, so she wasn't able to make it. Our request is pretty simple this year. Last year, we had a pretty crazy session. For those that were here, we want to thank those that were there in the House of Representatives to support us, as the Senate side did have a pretty hefty cut in their budget, but with the weight of the House and you guys standing strong, we were able to save our program and save the services for pregnant women and their babies here in our community as well as across the state. So thank you for that. So our request this year from the statewide association is that our request remain flat funded this year. So that's our request. As soon as I have budget lines, I will make sure your offices are aware, and we look forward to working with all of you this year.
Thank you so much. Healthy Start. Oh, I'm sorry, that was you. Sarasota County Teachers Association, Pat Gardner.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak today.
excuse me, I'm here to speak in favor of House Bill 137 by Margaret Good and Senate Bill 402 by Senator Gruters. These bills would allow retired teachers to begin subbing in classrooms as soon as they retire instead of waiting 6 months, which is now what the law requires. On any given day in Florida, only 80% of the classrooms where a teacher is absent have a substitute. That means that 20% of the classrooms do not have a sub. So what do they do in schools? Sometimes they split up classes, a class, and put them in other teachers' classrooms. Some teachers may give up their planning and they rotate through the day. Every hour a different teacher goes in the classroom. You might have other staff like guidance counselors or liaisons come in and substitute. Or in one county, I heard last week that they had so many kids without a teacher, they had to put them all in the auditorium for the day. This is not the best thing for our students. Senate Bill 402 and House Bill 137, you're not going to hear this very often, will not cost any money for the state. I may be the only person here today saying that. It will not cost the school district any more money. It may help put more certified teachers in front of our students, and it may help when there are not enough substitutes. Thank you for working together on this bill, and thank you for letting me speak. Thank you.
Yes, since we have two, go ahead.
Uh-oh.
Ms. Gardner, and maybe this is for Representative Good, is this a priority of the school district as well?
Yes.
Is this on their list?
Yes, sir.
As well. And for the representative in the center, has this bill been referenced yet to committees?
It's in oversight right now.
It is? Okay. Thank you.
Representative.
I'm just trying to be clear. You guys made it out of the classroom intact, and now you want to go back?
No. If I retired today, I cannot sub in a classroom for 6 months. In those 6 months, I may find another job. I may decide I like sitting in front of the TV. I may move away. But I think if we can catch them before they look for something else, we might be able to trap them back in those rooms where they see there's a better world out there. And anything to get a certified teacher in a classroom, I'm for. Thank you.
Thank you so much. National Association of Social Workers, Ruth Brandewin.
Good morning and welcome to the new members. My name is Ruth Brandwein and I'm representing the National Association of Social Workers, and you have a list of our full priorities in your packet. We have 18 units around the state and there are about 18,000 social workers in Florida. Our first priority is to increase funding and accessibility for mental health with a focus on school safety and increase behavioral health services to address the opioid crisis in Florida. This past year, once again, Florida has the dubious distinction of holding the 50th place in the nation in per capita funding for mental health services. It's no secret that during the recession, both mental health and substance abuse services were cut. People suffering from these illnesses do not do well on waiting lists of several months. Nationally, 64% of jail inmates suffer from mental illness, and approximately 75% of those have co-occurring substance abuse disorders, and there's a similar percentage in Sarasota County. At least half of homeless individuals suffer from mental health and/or substance abuse problems. They're known as what are high flyers. They're multiple users of emergency rooms and jails at a high cost to taxpayers. Child abuse and neglect is highly correlated with parental abuse and mental illness. The rapid increase in children removed from their homes and needing foster care is primarily due to substance abuse by parents, as you've heard. Homelessness is correlated, putting children at further risk. Violence among young people is correlated. The aim is to prevent the cycle of people with these behavioral health conditions moving between institutionalization, homelessness, and incarceration. I don't have much time, so just briefly, our second priority is to promote and support legislative efforts aligned with social and economic and environmental justice, and I want to thank Senator Gruters for filing a bill to protect LGBT rights. The other thing is to protect the Sarasota Housing Trust Fund for not being rated, but to use it for affordable housing. We also have one on protecting social work mobility. I want to talk about that. You're going to see about 1,000 or more social workers and social work students in Tallahassee. They won't all come to your office, don't worry. But we have these legislative priorities, and we'll be talking more about specific bills as they get filed. I want to thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. The Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance, Susan Goldstein and Heather Caston. Here, come up together.
Good morning, and thank you so much for your time today, Senator Gruters and representatives. We're so appreciative for you to be here. My name's Heather Caston. I'm the President CEO of the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance. We represent over 700 businesses in the region, and consisting of about 3,000 business professionals that make up those 700 companies. You have our legislative agenda in your packet that we've put together for 2019, and many of those issues have already been touched on today. We won't repeat those, but I've got with me Susan Goldstein, Chairman of our Governmental Affairs Committee, who are going to address just a couple that are very specific to the Lakewood Ranch region.
Hi, thank you, and congratulations on your election, and thank you for your service. Again, you have our agenda in front of you, but I will highlight 3 things that haven't been mentioned and are important to our mutual constituents. In terms of transportation, we have 2 issues. One is that we'd like you to support the funding for the I-75 flyover bridge between Benderson Park and Lakewood Ranch. This will certainly eliminate some of the transportation or traffic issues that we continue to have. Also, to support funding for the study, planning, and construction of the ultimate I-75 concept for Manatee and Sarasota counties. That, again, will streamline our traffic issues. In terms of one of our economic priorities, something you might not have heard as much about is we'd like you to support the Academy for Brain Health and Performance in Lakewood Ranch. This is in participation with the Harvard Medical School. This will ultimately put our region on the map. This is a study that's comparable to what occurred in Framingham, which was a heart study that started over 70 years ago, which in that instance, they followed individuals to help get a better understanding of coronary health. This one is focused on brain health and offers an amazing opportunity for our community and our region. I thank you again for your service, and I look forward to seeing you very soon in Tallahassee. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Dune.
Yeah, I just want to share with you as to the transportation. When we're setting up a transportation forum on the 25th of February at the Manatee Civic Center. All you guys are invited. We'll be talking about the challenges as it pertains to transportation, and we'll have some planning there, and also receiving questions from individuals in the audience. So if you want to participate in that, you guys are welcome to come visit. And my last question is, only one of your priorities is affordable housing, and you guys are the Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance. Are you or do you partner with Habitats for Humanity as it pertains to some leveraging, maybe to get some housing for maybe your employees, the ones that do not earn a living wage or have benefits? Any of your members that you know of, are you doing any partnering or housing? And I asked that I'm in 4 delegations, so I asked every chamber and every business organization that question because a lot of them are. I'm just want to know what you guys are doing to that end.
Yes, both Manatee Habitat for Humanity and Sarasota Habitat for Humanity are members of our organization, and we do support what their efforts are as far as Lakewood Ranch. With the revision of the 2020 plan, it was duly, was put into that whole agreement that there would be affordable housing specific to the Sarasota County side. I do not know what the latest plans are with SMR, but I know that piece does still need to come and will happen in Lakewood Ranch.
I just want to share with you, in Pinellas, Trade Winds, for instance. Trade Winds sponsor, I think, about 8 homes. And it's a win-win, because if you don't, you have to pay corporate taxes either way. But what happens is they're able to leverage that with Habitat and provide home ownership for their employees, which is a win-win. But I was just curious if anyone's doing any leveraging or sweat equity, working with them to that end. Because it's easy to say, don't rate the Sadowski Trust Fund, but we need help on all fronts as it pertains to workforce housing.
Okay, rather than answering that, since I see there may be 2 other questions, we're going to go to Representative Buchanan and then Representative Robinson.
Yeah, could you just give us a little bit more detail on this flyover bridge that you're proposing for the Benderson Park?
Yeah, all right, my understanding is that that will be totally engineered, planned, and ready to go based on what SMR is doing, and then it will need to be funded by Sarasota County in order for it actually to be built. and that is what is being waited on.
Thank you, Representative Robinson.
And thank you for all the work you do. And to answer Representative Newton's question, I've worked a lot with Manatee County Habitat for Humanity, and I know they partner very well together. And something, frankly, they've mentioned to me, and other groups have mentioned to me, Sadowski, not rating Sadowski is exceptionally important, but certainly local governments and otherwise putting additional regulations and issues on top of trying to get workforce development through their process, and the time it takes to get stuff through their process has become very burdensome for organizations like Habitat, and that increases their cost of getting their homes through. So Sadowski is a piece, but it's not the entire piece of affordable housing. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but I just wanted to make that point. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Moffitt Cancer Center, Edward Briggs. No? Yeah, we do have somebody. No? Thank you, Moffitt. Jewish Family and Children's Services, Heidi Brown.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for your representation and for your service. I am Heidi Brown, and I am honored to be the president and CEO of JFCS of the Suncoast. JFCS has served our community for over 30 years, and we help people in crisis through mental health and social services. Our client-centric approach identifies underlying causes of presenting problems and finding long-term solutions. Our JFCS mobile response team is requesting increased funding to allow us to expand services in South Sarasota County, an area which we know is underserved and where needs are increasing. Our mobile response team provides crisis stabilization and outreach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to children and young adults up till age 25 years old who are at risk of self-harm, have recently experienced a trauma, or exhibiting maladaptive behaviors. This immediate service averts Baker Acts by providing non-pharmacological interventions in the least restrictive environment and thereby decreasing and preventing costly hospitalizations. And there is a lot of data and statistics, which is in your proposal, to demonstrate that when we can support a cost-effective service such as a mobile response team, we can keep those who are in crisis away from a traumatic psychiatric hospitalization. And secondly, I'm still Heidi Brown with JFCS, and we are also proposing funding for an adolescent diversion and assistance program. We have this program, and it is serving Sarasota County, where we provide prevention and intervention services to kids ages 11 to 17. They've been charged with a crime or, though not formally charged, are at risk for involvement in the juvenile justice system. Diversion programs are less costly than formal court proceedings because they reduce the burden on the court system, reduce the caseload of juvenile probation officers, and free up very limited resources for high-risk juvenile offenders. Intervention at an early stage of delinquency decreases subsequent offenses. During and after participation reduces recidivism and prevents future involvement in the juvenile justice system. So I didn't know if I had to go on because I had two proposals, but I know the time has got caught up with me. So, but I would suggest that we pay attention to diversion programs because they demonstrate that those who are likely of reoffending actually have an increase if they're further processed into the juvenile system. So we want to divert as many as possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Circus Arts Conservatory, Jennifer Mitchell.
Good morning, and thank you very much for your service to our community. I am Jennifer Mitchell, the Executive Vice President of the Circus Arts Conservatory, a nonprofit organization that's committed to enhancing and advancing the important legacy, the heritage of this community, which is the circus arts. And we do so through 4 major activities, which include putting on year-round performances. We are Florida's only resident nonprofit circus. We provide performances that attract international artists at the highest level of their disciplines, and that actually provides over $7 million of economic impact to our area. We also steward America's longest-running youth circus, the Sailor Circus, which is located on Bay Vista Street, an important and vital educational program for students ages 5 to 18, where they're not just developing circus skills, they're developing life management skills, self-discipline, confidence, commitment, all those things that they need to go out into their careers. We also partner with Sarasota and Manatee County Schools, delivering STEAM-based science programs and physical education programs using the circus arts as a medium. We serve humor therapy. We serve care facilities through a program called Humor Therapy, working truly with children of all ages. In 2017, I want to thank the leadership of Senator Gruters, who helped us with an appropriation of $1 million, which contributed to the near completion of the arena project on Bay Vista. If you've driven by, you can see that we've got quite a bit of construction going on. It's an exciting project because it's not only preserving an iconic facility, it's also adding to this community an important asset, more space, more opportunity. In your materials, you'll see that we are also looking to expand that campus into Phase 2, which will help serve a newly developed magnet program with Sarasota High School. And I'm going to look forward to meeting with each of you, along with Principal David Jones, to discuss more of this unique educational program, one of a kind in the country, where students will study the circus arts and earn credit hours to their diploma. On that note, I welcome each of you also to join us out at Nathan Benderson Park for Circus Sarasota coming up in February. It's certainly a tradition here in this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Florida Center for Early Childhood, Catherine Shea, and I know you're also going to be speaking in the Sarasota County Community Alliance as well.
Correct. Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair and the delegation members, for this great opportunity to speak before you. It is so important that we see and hear from you and that you see and hear from your constituents. I'm Catherine Shea, the President and CEO of the Florida Center for Early Childhood, and I'm here to request your help to expand early childhood court in Sarasota County and to initiate it in DeSoto County. Circuit 12, as you've already heard numerous times today, is really experiencing a crisis in foster care. We actually surpass any other circuit in the state with the number of children coming into care, and the primary reason is substance abuse in their parents. Over 50% of these children are under the age of 3, with the greatest majority in the 0 to 3 age range. We know from research that the first 1,000 days of life is the most critical time for brain development and attachment, and the most vulnerable time for maltreatment. Most of these children, even though they are only birthed to 3, have already suffered one form of adverse childhood experiences and are at very high risk for developmental delay and mental health issues. Many have already also been prenatally exposed to the drugs that their parents were using during pregnancy, which increases their risk level for poor development. Our community has been working on this crisis for the past 2 years through the initiative of the Manatee Community Foundation, where a team of over 30 individuals met for well over a year to really prioritize the top 5 priorities to address the issue in foster care, and early childhood court was chosen as the #1 priority. Early childhood court is a problem-solving docket designed to improve the outcomes for abused and neglected children ages 0 to 3, and we do this in modeling a very intensive judicial model that is an evidence-based model from the national organization 0 to 3 called the Safe Babies Court Team. There are 22 sites now in the state of Florida that are initiating or well underway with early childhood court. We have remarkable data and outcomes from what we are doing compared to those 0 to 3 that have not been a part of early childhood court. You have that data in your packet. And what we have found from 2014 to 2018 is that overall, children enrolled in ECC attain permanency 143 days faster than those in non-ECC and had a lower return to care. It was also awarded the 2017 Tax Watch Productivity Award for potential cost savings. And I think you all know it's not easy to get an award from Florida Tax Watch. Any questions about early childhood court?
Yes.
Is this the same program, and you may not know this, but Judge Dees in
Yes.
Manatee County, so it's the same?
You were there.
Yes, I
Yes,
was, okay.
yes,
so
I
it's the
was
same-
with you. Yes,
Okay, so
it
y'all are
is.
requesting funding to do a similar type of thing?
We have 2 teams in Manatee. We only have 1 team in Sarasota, and we have a very high need in Sarasota, and we have none in DeSoto.
Great.
So we want to get a second team in Sarasota and a half team in DeSoto.
It's a wonderful program.
Thank
So,
you.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Brilliant Harvest, Bill Johnson.
Can I do my?
You're, okay, going for the next one? Go for it.
Okay. This is the other Catherine Shea, and I'm here on behalf of the Community Alliance of Sarasota County. And on September 18th, over 100 community stakeholders came together for our 7th annual legislative summit to work in partnership to design and develop our legislative priorities of the Community Alliance. We addressed 8 systems: aging, behavioral health, child welfare, children and youth, criminal justice, developmental disabilities, health care, and homelessness. After a number of issues were submitted by our community people, a top priority in each of those categories was selected, 2 top priorities. We then held our legislative breakfast of champions to invite our legislators, our delegation members, to hear what those priorities were from our constituents and to receive your Blue Book, which has all of the issues in it in greater detail than I can say today. But what we need is your full support in helping these community priority issues. We are already planning next year's legislative breakfast, where we are anticipating full attendance by our legislative delegation. And you will be receiving your save the date this afternoon, and then you will receive it every other week until the breakfast. So get it on your calendars. I can tell you that of the evaluations that we've done, that over 90% have found both the summit and the breakfast to exceed their expectations. And the one biggest comment we have gotten across all those years is we want to see more of our legislators present. So we're going to be knocking on your doors. I will be seeing you in Tallahassee a lot. And if you have any questions about any of the issues in your Blue Book, please don't hesitate to contact the contact expert that's listed at the end of the issue. And I think, Representative Buchanan, you're the only one who has not yet received your Blue Book, but I have you on my schedule next week. Okay. Thank you also very much for what you do.
Thank you so much. Brilliant Harvest, Bill Johnson.
Good morning, and thank you. My name is Bill Johnson. I am president of Brilliant Harvest LLC, a local state-certified solar contractor. I'm speaking to you today on behalf of FLSIA, the Florida Solar Energy Industry Association, which represents the solar industry here in Florida. Florida is the Sunshine State and should be a leader when it comes to renewable energy from the sun. With the right state policy, Florida can create a new energy economy, create new energy job growth, and invite private investment in solar power. Unfortunately, government-imposed regulations on electrical energy production and distribution, well-intentioned when they were adopted nearly 70 years ago, have created artificial barriers, impeding access to the market and slowing innovation. Removing these restrictions will unlock private investment in our energy future. FLSIA has 3 legislative priorities in 2019. Number 1, certain utilities have unfairly and unilaterally reduced the value of solar energy sent to the grid, discouraging people from adopting solar power in those territories. We must initiate public policy at the state level to ensure that solar energy sent to the grid is valued the same as energy purchased from the utility. Number 2, we must remove the current state prohibition preventing property owners from providing solar energy to other users on their own property. Current state policy prohibits property owners from harvesting energy on their own property, a natural resource, and using it to distribute to other folks on their own property. Number 3, we must create a free and open competitive market for power purchase agreements. Limiting PPAs to Florida's forced monopoly utility system is the single biggest reason that private solar developers have stayed away from our state. Opening this market will launch Florida on the path to becoming the #1 state in solar energy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Florida Medical Rights Association, Glenn Compton.
Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Glenn Compton. I'm here representing the Florida Medical Rights Association. Our primary mission is to amend the Florida Wrongful Death Act, which is also known as the Florida Free Kill Law, which very few people know about. To summarize the issue, if you are age 25 or older, single, and without children, a physician can kill you due to medical negligence, and no one can bring suit against that doctor. We believe the Florida Wrongful Death Act is unconstitutional as it denies individuals equal protection under the law and deprives individuals of their constitutional right to access the courts in the case of medical negligence due to death. There is no accountability for a death that is caused by medical negligence simply because you have reached the age 25. This is an unjust law. It is time to remedy this law because every life is valuable in the state of Florida. I hope you will take the time to educate yourself, and you will find the inequality of this law is overwhelming. The packet that you have, I hope you have, I know I turned it in late, but the packet that you have outlines what the Florida Free Kill Act is, and also 3 Supreme Court cases that are related to this statute. So I'm here today basically to help educate you and to inform you of this law, and hope that you will agree with us and do whatever is in your power to make changes to the statute. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Central Florida Behavioral Health, Laura Gross.
Good morning. You may be shocked to realize I'm not Laura Gross. We look completely different. I'm Jason Sapples with Central Florida Behavioral Health Network. Thank you for letting me come to speak to you today. I'm here representing Central Florida Behavioral Health Network, CFBHN. CFBHN is Florida's largest managing entity and was created specifically to develop and manage a system of care for publicly funded substance abuse and mental health services. We are an accredited non-for-profit organization operating in 14 counties. People who face addictive brain disease and serious mental illness have compelling stories to tell of their struggles and their triumphs. I wish they were here to tell you guys their stories today, but on their behalf, we thank you, and we are their voice today. Due to your unselfish generosity, many of these fellow Floridians have received the care they need to achieve and maintain their recovery. CFBHN would like to extend its support to the Community Alliance of Sarasota County. CFBHN wholeheartedly supports their vision of a safe and caring community to meet and exceed the basic health and human service needs while creating opportunities for growth and success. As an advocate of substance abuse mental health services, CFBHN fully supports the Community Alliance Legislative Blue Book, which I think everybody has a copy of except for Representative Buchanan, but I hear that's coming to you pretty quickly. So I think everybody's heard from Academy of Glengarry, Centerstone of Florida, Jewish Family and Children's Services, and Sarasota Community Alliance. So I won't go back into what they've already said, but just know that we do fully support that. And again, we thank the legislative delegation of Sarasota County for their hard work and for giving CFBHN the time to advocate on the behalf of those we serve. As always, we're here for you and your staff. If you have any questions, please let us know and contact us.
Thank you so much. Next up is Hippie, Tracy Payne.
Hi, how are you? I'm here because you're going to be hearing a lot more about the home instruction for parents of preschool youngsters in the coming future. So I'm here to make sure that you know exactly who we are and what we do. We're an international program. We're also a national program in 114 sites across the United States of America and DC. Here in Florida, there are 16 sites serving more than 16 counties. And within these programs here, we are a home visiting program. Our home visitors visit with families for an hour each week. We are a parent involvement program, and we provide a free evidence-based curriculum to those families. But we reach those families whose whose children are most at risk for school readiness delay. And yet, those children that participate in HIPPY are 2 times more likely to be kindergarten ready and 5 times more likely to be promoted to the 1st grade than comparison children in those same areas. And this is with a sample of over almost 800 children across the state of Florida. So we are doing our job. We are doing an excellent job at a cost of somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 per child. Only that's per child and doesn't constitute the effect that we're having on that home visitor, the family. We're also a nationally recognized workforce development program because over half of our home visitors were formerly parents in the program. But we uniquely reach communities that many other programs don't have access to. So our goal is to not only have a hippie program in every county across Florida, but it's also to partner with other agencies who are trying to reach the populations that we already serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Buchanan, hold on one second. I'm so sorry.
I just want to thank you for coming in today. I sit on the board of the Sarasota Y, and you know, I've actually had opportunities, and I wanted to share this with the rest of our delegation, for people to come in and actually give us testimonials. I've had parents come in and say, you know, you've saved my life, you've saved my kid's life going into school. Thank you so much for what you're doing, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Representative Newton.
Yes,
Hold on
I
one more.
want to thank you also, Ms. Payne. It's important that we fund and keep supporting things that work. HIPPY is home instruction for parents of preschool youth. And the way it works is basically you're the first parent. Know what I'm saying? When little Billy and little Susie's at home, bumping their head, falling down, trying to learn their way, there's no one there but you. And if you don't pour into those children and read to them and teach them how to read, then we know what the end going to be. More criminal justice, more aid, more kids that we've lost and we're trying to turn around. It costs way more to try to fix a kid after the fact than the investment we make on the front end. And I think the graduation classes that they have is like 2 a year in each different county here, and in all the 4 counties I represent. You have kids anywhere from 4 to 5 years old that can read a book cover to cover. I think it's like something in the 90th percentile readiness rate for kindergarten going in. And I'm an optimist. I believe we can get kids through school in 12 years, believe it or not longer than that. Because if you don't get them by 3rd grade, we'll end up spending more money trying to turn them around and funding all these other programs that we keep cutting and don't want to provide for. So I believe we'll make an investment in the front end. I think, Mr. Buchanan, if you guys hadn't seen the program or participated in the graduation, please do. It works. It's one of the things that actually works. What a noble concept. But thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Wheelchair Beach Water Access, Angela Bergoglio.
Thank you for allowing me to come here and speak to you today. Oops. I made you a video, but nobody responded whether I could send it to you or not.
I blame Representative Robinson for that.
Ironically, today is the 21st anniversary of the day I inhaled the germ that causes bacterial meningitis. And as a result, I woke up from a 10-day coma with no legs. I spent the next 6 months in the hospital getting skin grafted back together. My name is Angela Bergoglio, and it's an honor and a privilege to speak to you on behalf of the entire disabled community. I went back to school at 40 to become a paralegal. I volunteered at Mote Marine for 7 years, serving 4 years on the volunteer board, and I've been a guardian ad litem for foster children. What a journey it has been to get here in front of all of you. What I learned quickly on my journey was that no matter how many times I asked why me and screamed it's not fair, my legs didn't grow back. So I didn't spend much time there and decided to just play the cards I was dealt. But what I did not know when I got in this card game was that for the rest of my life, people who did not look at butts and belly buttons all day were the ones who were going to be making decisions for me as to where I could go, what I could see, if I could park my car, and even if there was a bathroom I could use. Such simple things for everyone else. I met our commissioners in August when I decided it was time to say, it's not fair, I can't go to the #1 beach in America by myself and swim in the ocean. Since then, Commissioner Hines has treated this issue with genuine concern, compassion, and integrity, given his time and input to work with me in the County Parks and Rec Department to find a solution to clear a path to the beach for everyone. Every publicly elected official should aspire to his standards as a public servant. So he asked me today to come to you and talk about what he accurately dubbed as people versus turtles. There's an overwhelming amount of science to prove now the health benefits of the ocean. After a decade of research, Dr. Wallace Nichols published a New York Times bestseller called Blue Mind. In his book, the biologist shares his neuroscience research demonstrating the many ways in which water positively impacts not just our lives, but our minds. Another study said the natural environments like beaches and waterfront parks offer more restorative benefits to people than gyms, entertainment venues, and the built urban environment. Even Hippocrates, the father of medicine, used the word thalassotherapy to describe the healing effects of seawater. So in a state riddled with an opioid crisis, why aren't we getting prescriptions to go to the beach instead of for pills? Well, we have 2 federally protected species that use the same path to get there. But on March 11th, the revised Title II of the ADA said that all services, programs, and activities provided to the public have to be accessible. Unfortunately, that is not the case here in Sarasota. There was a commission study done in 2013 for an area of Sarasota Beach to be ADA compliant, yet the information our commissioners got was influenced by public development. They never got the information that there was no ADA compliance. The road was given away, so there is no compliant beach access here in Sarasota. So I'm asking you to untie our commissioners' hands, unblock our path to the water, balance the scales of equality and the quality of our lives, and then restore justice where it's due. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we're going to hear from the Brady campaign, Carol Resigno.
Good morning, and thank you for this forum. I am Carol Resigno, and I am president of the Sarasota chapter of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence. And I'm not here to ask for money either. I want to say that my organization, along with over 95% of Americans, I'll stress that number, 95% of Americans, supports background checks on all gun purchases. We very much appreciate the fact that Representative Margaret Good filed a bill to that end, H.R. 135, I believe it is, pretty much before she unpacked her suitcase this legislative session. We know that background checks will not stop all gun deaths. We know that. But since the original Brady law was enacted more than 25 years ago, it has blocked 3 million prohibited gun purchases. I would ask all the legislators here in the House and the Senate to close the loopholes and expand this law to cover every gun purchased. For many of us, that's just logic. Our networking team has met with some of you and has asked for meetings with all of you. I'm also here to talk about impediments to home rule and the effect that they have on the gun culture in Florida. I addressed our city commissioners for the past 2 years to ask them to help us work to prevent mass shootings. The first time after the Pulse murders, they voted down a resolution by their own city manager that simply called on them to back the state and federal governments in efforts to limit the availability and use of military-style weapons. I believe most of them the commissioners favored the resolution, but voted no after learning from the city attorney that they could be personally fined $5,000, lose their commission seats, and put the city at risk of being fined $100,000 by the state under its preemption laws that block home rule. The second time I spoke, after the murders in Parkland last year, I asked that the city consider an advisory resolution related to military-style weapons and large-capacity magazines. I asked them to consider the resolution that would call for universal background checks. Florida is a big state with many different types of communities. We believe our city and county commissioners know us the best and should be able to respect our constitutional rights and keep us safe. These kinds of shootings, these kinds of murders are my worst nightmare, and I hope that they're most people's worst nightmare.
Thank you so much. We're the League of Women Voters, Carol Hartz.
Good morning. I'm Carol Hartz, President and Gun Safety Chair of the League of Women Voters, Sarasota County. The League is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. Among our top priorities in 2019 are gun safety and preservation of natural resources. The League of Women Voters also supports strong home rule for counties and municipalities. The League has twice asked the Sarasota City Commission to issue a non-binding resolution supporting a ban on semi-automatic weapons in Sarasota. Our City Commission has twice declined to issue a non-binding resolution because of preemption statutes. The League asks that our municipal representatives be empowered to ensure our constitutional rights of safety, free from the fear of semi-automatic weapons. The League opposes statutory preemption on single-use plastic. In 2008, the Florida legislature blocked local governments from banning plastic bags. Our beaches, our landfills, and our tourist economy are affected by single-use plastics. The League asks that our municipal representatives be empowered to ensure the health of our local environment. The League asks that the Sarasota City and County Commissions, which represent our citizens at the local level, operate under strong home rule and be empowered to keep us healthy and free from fear. Thank you very much.
Thank you. South Florida Museum, Bryn Ann Bazio.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity, and I've seen most of you at the museum, and I appreciate your having taken time to be there and see what we do. We are the largest natural and cultural history museum on the Gulf Coast, with a state-of-the-art planetarium and a manatee rehab aquarium, and in that aquarium we do rehab animals that have also been affected by red tide. So we are a critical part of that manatee rehabilitation network. With these unlimited assets, we can tell stories of the interconnectedness of life in the universe and share our vision with others. We connect people through education. We're part of the tourism industry, and we also are part of the economic landscape. We have visitors from all over the United States, the many territories, and many countries from around the world. But 70% of our visitors are from Florida, and 25% of them are from Sarasota County itself. We connect with higher learning. We work with SCF and Ringling, New College of Florida, internships. We co-teach classes, so we're part of that network. And then we're vital to the K-12 learning. For instance, every fourth grader in Manatee County comes for the Earth and Space Standards to the museum. And we serve 10 counties worth of schools because we're the only natural history museum on the Gulf Coast. So we're important there. 25% of Sarasota County students do come to the museum for education. And we're part of that bigger network of Campaign for Grade Level Reading. We want to be part of that solution, and we are there committed to it. So early learning, we're diving deep this year. We're opening our new early learning center, the Mosaic Backyard Universe, along with 6 new classrooms. Will open in July of this year, so it's finally here, and we're excited to be part of the solution of bringing STEM learning in an inquiry-based learning environment to the region. I know of no other place that's quite like this. So you'll be getting an invitation to come see this new facility. Installation should be done by mid-June. I'll wear my other hat now, and that's as chair of the Florida Association of Museums, supporting Division of Cultural Affairs funding. I appreciate the fact you're committed to it. It really helps the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from the Safe Children's Coalition, Brenda Slater.
Hi. Congratulations, Chairman Gruters and all the Sarasota delegations. My name is Brina Slater, and I'm the Senior Vice President of the Sarasota Family YMCA, also called the Safe Children Coalition because we are responsible for the 1,600 children at Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto. As most of you know, we have a no eject, no reject policy. So when a child is removed by either the Manatee Sheriff's Office or by the Department of Children and Families in Sarasota and DeSoto, we have the responsibility to take them no matter what their criminal background is, no matter what their disabilities are, no matter their substance abuse or mental health situation. Throughout the last 22 years, when Sarasota County was actually the very first community-based care agency that was evolved. So over the last 22 years now, the whole entire state is privatized into circuits, and there's 19 circuits with 18 different community-based care agencies. The amount of money that's been funded has not been recalibrated in the last 22 years. So there's a couple of charts that were attached so that you can actually see the difference between the number of removals. In 2015, when the opioid epidemic started happening, and we went from having 30 to 40 children removed a month to over 100 children in Manatee, Sarasota, and DeSoto counties, the price per child has become an enormous disparity. You can see from 2015 and 16 $26,000 per child that our circuit receives, and $36,000 for other areas. You can see this last year, $27,000 for our children in Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto. However, there's children in other parts of the state that receive $62,000 per child. When we have 1,600 children, it's our children in your backyard there's a huge disparity amongst the funding. So we aren't allowed to that's why we work with so many great programs like First Step and the Early Childhood Court and All Star Children's. We want to be able to have more of those programs. However, with the little amount of funding we get, we aren't able to invest in those. So thank you
Here's a
very
question
much.
for you. Is the solution to this child-based care imbalance for our area a policy fix, an appropriations fix, or both?
They are working on both right now. I know that there's probably a specific appropriations fix for our specific circuit. However, the whole entire state is working on what they're calling an adequacy model recalibration that I believe the new secretary for DCF is open to discussing. However, it's a significant amount of funding to make our areas adequate.
Thank you.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
continue the answer to that question. We've been meeting with Senate President Galvano about that very question. He's dedicated some staff resources to helping us work through the solutions, both his appropriations side and his policy staff, and we'll bring those to you as soon as we have those fleshed out.
Great, and Representative Newton also has a question.
Well, just a comment. The secretary on Wednesday, because I serve on the Department of Children, Family, and Seniors, he's traveling the state, and they're aware of these antiquated formulas, because that's what it is. It's an old formula, but it hadn't kept up with the growing need and the problems that we face in the state throughout. So he's traveling throughout, and we did ask the board, or the committee did ask them, was there anything that we can do legislatively, and he said he would definitely get back to us as to what they see the problems being. What I would ask of you is to allow your staff and the people and your subordinates below you to be able to share with the secretary candidly without fear of retribution, if you will. Because what I always ask in the committees when people come up to us sharing their problems, especially department heads, I always say, if you were legislator for a day, what would you do? And the reason I ask that, these are the individuals on the front line fighting the battles. They know how to fix it. Problem is, because of the hierarchy, they can't talk to anybody or they get suppressed or whatever. So I shared face-to-face with the secretary on Wednesday the fact that you may need to, ride with some of these individuals on the front line, give them immunity or whatever, but they know the cure. They know how to fix it, and then hopefully we can get some good legislation out of it to fix some of these antiquated formulas. It's not just in family and services, it's in a lot of the things that we do statewide. It's always been a formula. And some of these formulas, because they have changed, the situation has changed over time, are very detrimental to some and beneficial to others throughout.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
Next is the Safe Children Coalition. No, I'm sorry. Florida Citizens Alliance, Steve Vernon.
Good morning, Senator Gruters and representatives. My name is Steve Vernon, and I'm on the Board of Directors of Florida Citizens Alliance, and I'm representing them here today. I believe all of you are familiar with our organization, but just in case and very briefly, we are an alliance of 90 grassroots groups, and we just had a milestone. We now have over 50,000 supporters in the state of Florida, and we are a statewide education reform group. The 5 things I'd like to talk to you about today are education initiatives. And one thing before I get into the 5 individual items is that we are not asking for any taxpayer money. We are simply asking for your support. And on the 5 initiatives, we have 2 that are bills, and I'll briefly discuss those, and with time permitting, I'll get back in more detail with those. First is the Fix-It bill for 989. 989 was an excellent bill that allowed citizens to look at the textbooks and other instructional materials and then object and have a review with the school district of those textbooks or educational items they objected to. But it needs to be fixed. Like so many bills, if you don't have teeth in the bills, then people ignore them. Next is a meet and exceed standards bill, where we want to make sure that the next generation Sunshine State standards are a baseline, not a ceiling. Too many of the school districts consider it a ceiling. We want them to do a lot better than that. So those are the two bills. The number 3 initiative,
Real quick.
that is a best practices institution. That Speaker Oliva, he introduced last year, but it was defeated by the Senate. So the other two, we want you to support the scholarships in existence. We want you to have a new math scholarships, because we think that scholarships are all important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chapter 651 changes, Fred Faulkner.
Fred Faulkner is unable to be here this morning, and thank you for letting me present this information to you. My name is Robert Henderson. I'm from the Glenridge on Palmer Ranch, a continuing care retirement community. I am here to urge your support of legislation to improve Chapter 651, titled Continuing Care Contracts. You are probably familiar with the bankruptcy of the University Village in Tampa and the inability of the Office of Insurance Regulation to step in and protect the residents. The tools that OIR needed are not presently a part of 651. In response to this situation, Florida Life Care Residents Association, Leading Age, and the Office of Insurance Regulation have met to create language to amend 651, providing OIR authority to step into a troubled financial or management situation to protect the residents. Last year, the same bill was sponsored by Senator Tom Lee and Representative James Grant and received unanimous approval in committee sessions. However, the legislative session ended before the bill could be brought to a vote. We will provide your offices with the bill numbers as soon as they are available and request that you review the bills and support the legislation. The changes to 651 will close loopholes and clarify OIR's responsibility and ability to step in to a troubled situation and review changes in management or ownership. It will also provide greater transparency regarding the type and timing of information that management shares with residents. A more detailed explanation on the need to amend 651 is found in your booklets. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Teen Court and Girls Inc., Lori Moran and Jamie Ketterine.
Good morning. Lori Moran, Teen Court of Sarasota. I'm here along with Jamie Catrine of Girls Inc. Together, we advocate for the youth and children in Sarasota County for our said organizations, but also today as co-chairs of the Positive Youth Development Council, as under the Youth and Mental Behavioral Health team under former Sarasota County Commissioner Shannon Staub.
So we spent the summer meeting with our committee made up of mental and behavioral health experts as well as the school district. We're here today to report on one of our action items, to encourage the Florida legislature to move the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act into the recurring funding category, specifically to ensure the continued support of the vitally needed mental health support services in schools. And Lori will tell you a little bit more about why.
On February 14th, 2018, 14 students and 3 teachers lost their lives to a tragic act of violence. As a result, politicians reached out to their communities and across the aisle to take immediate and bipartisan action to ensure the safety of our students. Less than 30 days after the incident, a bill was passed to prevent future acts of violence and address underfunded mental health needs for youth. By ensuring there's recurring funding for mental health support in our schools, we can continue to build and make progress this year by adding additional treatment capacity and best practice approaches to further support and promote emotional and behavioral health for our students. It is our research that speaks to the need for mental health funding and services. Research shows $1 investment in early treatment and prevention programs for addictions and mental illness leads $2 to $10 savings across systems. What's more, prevention services save $14 to $18 for every $1 spent. These two different studies share a commonality. Investments in youth, mental, and behavioral health have long-term impacts that benefit our youth, our community, and our state, as well as save Floridians countless tax dollars in the long run. You can find this information in your Blue Book.
So to be clear, we ask that this funding is specific to mental and behavioral support as provided through the school district. While schools may benefit from added security measures that address situational crime prevention, this is a unique opportunity for our leadership to come together and shift Marjory Stoneman Douglas Act to the recurring funding category to ensure continuation of this much-needed support. Thank you for your time today and your service every day.
Thank you so much. The Family Network on Disabilities, Mary Smith.
Good morning. I am Mary Smith, the Executive Director for Family Network on Disabilities, but I am here representing the Developmental Disabilities Committee of the Community Alliance, and we would like to thank and acknowledge Representative Margaret Good for submitting a request for review and changes to Senate Bill 850 in the upcoming legislative session. Senate Bill 850 was adopted in the spring of 2014 and went into effect for the school year of 14-15. The bill eliminated the two special diploma options that existed for students with disabilities and created a new pathway for students with significant disabilities to be able to obtain a standard diploma through what is known as access points. There are currently only two pathways in existence for public school students in Florida to obtain a standard diploma. The enactment and implementation of this bill has caused significant issues for students with significant disabilities and other disabilities in our schools, in our public school system. This includes students with low cognitive abilities and other disabilities. It has also caused issues for school districts, administration, and especially teachers to be able to meet the requirements for teaching a very rigorous curriculum. This in turn has also affected the way that students' individual education plans are implemented and meeting the federal guidelines within the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is geared toward focusing not only on academics, but also on independent living skills and employment skills that individuals with disabilities will need in their post-graduation years when they're adults. This change is how students with disabilities I'm sorry, I apologize. This has in turn created a great deal of stress on families and the whole family unit, community programs, and employment opportunities for students with disabilities. Parents and families of students with significant disabilities understand and accept the limitations of their child. What they don't understand is why their child is not receiving the education, instruction, opportunities, resources, and services that they need to be as independent as possible, be successful, and contribute to the community they live in. More appropriate curriculum or a pathway for students with disabilities needs to be considered and implemented as standard diploma options. Students are not learning academics that they will be able to use throughout their life, practicing the life skills that they need to be independent, or experiencing job exploration. While Senate Bill 850 set out to create a path for all students to obtain a standard diploma, it unintentionally has created consequences for students with disabilities that have been detrimental to their learning and growth. For more than 30 years, parents and disability advocates have worked tirelessly towards including individuals with disabilities in the public education process.
Please wrap it up.
We have succeeded at that, but now we need to address the curriculum that they have to pass.
Thank you very much. Florida State Guardian Association, Pamela Keller.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here to represent the Florida State Guardianship Association, along with Ellie Himes. We are both board members of the organization. Ellie Himes is a professional guardian, and I'm an attorney whose office is in Charlotte County, but serving certainly this area as well. The Florida State Guardianship Association has provided you with our 2019 legislative priorities in your packet. The Florida State Guardianship Association's 580 members are professional guardians and attorneys like the two of us. They're also social workers, caregivers, and other people who care for the most vulnerable of Florida citizens. These include minors, developmentally disabled adults, as well as the elderly and vulnerable population above 65 years old. Our priorities are many without fiscal impact. We are really not here to ask for you to devote funds this year, but for the most part, to address some of the statutes that are already in existence. Guardianship is a very, very big issue in this state. It has been climbing in prominence in the last few years in the legislature, and we felt that it was very important for us to initiate our legislative action in order to address some of those things. Some things that we are wanting you to deal with are as simple as tweaking the school safety law that was implemented last year. In that law, the term mentally defective was used. The term that we use in guardianship is incapacitated in accordance with Chapter 744. We would like to see some clarification of that. There were protections put in place for public guardians last year in terms of protecting their personal information. We would like to see that private professional guardians are also included in the list of guardians that have that protection available to us. We would like to ensure that due process is provided to the citizens who are subject to a petition for an emergency temporary guardianship. Imagine getting a knock on your door, being an elderly person, and having someone come to the door saying, hey, I'm your emergency temporary guardian, without ever having had notice of the proceedings or an opportunity to be heard in those proceedings. So there are a number of things on our list of priorities that deal with addressing specific items and specific statutes. We also want you to understand that the Florida State Guardianship Association is a resource for you as legislators to come to us as we control the education of both examining committee members and guardians in the state.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Next up is the Falun Dafa Association.
Good morning, and thank you for this forum. My name is Maria Bronstein, and I'm here on the behalf of Falun Dafa Association. The language for the Florida State resolution to stop persecution of Falun Dafa practitioners and forced organ harvesting in China now is in the House bill drafting service. We're asking all of you to support it by co-sponsoring the resolution. Falun Dafa is a traditional Chinese meditation practice, beautiful, solemn, and peaceful. Tens of millions practicing around the globe. Practitioners are cultivating the qualities of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Yet, it's severely persecuted in China. Massive campaign of persecution began on July 20th, 1999, and it continues today, almost 20 years later. Hundreds of thousands of Falun Dafa practitioners have been sent to forced labor camps. Many have been tortured, and thousands have died in police custody. Chinese Communist government created a profitable business, killing prisoners of conscience and selling their organs for profit. This issue concerns all of us. As of November 2018, 5,811 Floridians are on the waiting list for organ transplant. But patients sometimes have to wait years for a transplant. In China, it only takes days. They even schedule heart transplant 2 weeks in advance. When people are desperate, they may go far to get help, but they have the right to know the real consequences of going to China for transplant surgery. It means that innocent, healthy person, primarily Falun Dafa practitioner, would be cut up for his or her organs.
Thank you so much for your testimony today. I really appreciate it. Next up is the inmate Thank you so much. Next up is the inmate treatment programs. Dave Beasley.
Yes, good morning. Dave Beasley with First Step, representing First Step of Sarasota, an agency providing substance abuse prevention and treatment for over 50 years to our community. Thank you very much for your service to the community and for the opportunity to speak to you today. I'm here not just representing our agency, but representing our community and representing the behavioral health organizations across the state of Florida. We'll be coming to you this year to speak to you in this legislative session about many funding considerations, about many policy issues, about issues around healthcare access, and issues around statewide coordination and regulation, including recommendations made by the Sober Home Task Force, and including a recommendation to reinstate the Office of Drug Control or a similar office to develop and implement a statewide strategy to coordinate between local, state, and federal agencies. As you heard today, the issue of substance abuse impacts almost all of the systems that have spoke, including child welfare, hospital systems, other healthcare systems, schools, the homeless, et cetera, et cetera. Specifically, I want to speak to you about an issue that arose this year in the Florida Department of Corrections. We're dealing right here locally in Sarasota with looking at jail diversion, reducing the cost, not having to build a new jail. And one of the things that took place with a cut in the Florida Department of Corrections LBR was actually a reduction of residential treatment funding by 40%, which means individuals that otherwise would have had residential treatment services will now remain or go back to jail or prison and not get the treatment and recovery services they need for their disease of substance abuse. So we're asking that you monitor this, keep an eye on it, and support full restoration in the Department of Corrections LBR. This issue is supported by the Florida Department of Corrections itself, our local offices, the state attorney, public defender, treatment courts, Family Safety Alliance, Behavioral Health Stakeholders Consortium, and the Sarasota County Commission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, the West Coast Black Theater Group, Julie Leach.
I know you're excited to see us because I think we're the last people. I'm Julie Leach. I'm the Executive Director of the West Coast Black Theater Troupe, and with me today is
Nate Jacobs, Founder and Artistic Director. Good morning.
Good morning. We have an incredible opportunity this year at WBTT. We are in the process of renovating and expanding our campus. We completed one building last year, the Binns Building. If you're familiar with that historic building, we turned it into an education and administrative building for our theater. And this year, we're going to start renovating our theater. It's an $8 million project, and we've raised $6.8 million in private funding for it. Now we have a great opportunity for the state to be involved because we have requested a $500,000 Department of Cultural Affairs facilities grant. These grants, we have a grants panel that recommends to the legislature about them, and we went to the grants panel and scored very highly, a 93.9 on the grants panel. So likely if there is funding, we should get some of it, I hope. So last year, as you mentioned before, Representative Buchanan, I think you mentioned that last year there was no funding for, well, there was very limited funding for the operating grants, but for the cultural grants, there was no funding because of emergency needs. So we're hoping that this year the legislature can find some funding for us. In prior years, other cultural institutions in town have benefited from this program, the Oslo, FST, the Opera. We have never requested any before. This is our first opportunity, and we are the only arts and cultural institution in Sarasota, Manatee, and Pinellas County looking for grant money this year. So I hope you'll think about us. We're the only African-American troupe of theater on the west coast of Florida, and Nate founded it, what, 19 years ago?
Yeah, almost 20 years this
Yep.
November.
And we have a $2 million budget. We employ up to 100 full-time employees and artisans each year, so we make a big economic impact. I want to thank Jim Shirley for mentioning what a great economic impact the arts and culture make in our county. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much. Next up, Soil and Water Conservation District, Matthew Woodall and Adi Bach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the delegation. Apparently, our agency is a little bit better at securing a location for 2,000 pounds of poultry from one of our poultry farmers when they lose power in their cooler during Hurricane Irma than we are at making sure staff knows that we're going to be here. But we are here. Your Soil and Water Conservation District is present and accounted for. I would like to say that we are very proud to be the very best Soil and Water Conservation District in Florida. Florida Soil and Water Conservation District, our agency, for those of you that do not know, an easy way to understand what we do and what our mission is. We are here to remind everyone that there is no such thing as a post-agricultural area. Working alongside with our cooperators, including the Farm Bureau, the Cattlemen's Association, and so many others. I'm joined here by a new supervisor, Ms. Adi Bach. The Soil and Water Conservation District is governed by a publicly elected 5-member Board of Supervisors. Ms. Bach and myself serving alongside Brett Blackburn and senior supervisors, Chairman Todd Underhill and Mr. Rory Martin. We will be forwarding our packet to you with our request for consideration for the delegation going forward, which will be a very slight increase, I think, maybe in initiation of maybe what can be a training and education appropriation that I think is severely needed for our new members and for continuing education for existing members. So I believe Ms. Bach has a few things that she would like to say. Again, thank you very much for allowing us the opportunity to participate, and we appreciate your service. And welcome to new members of the delegation.
He gave you a whole 30 seconds.
Thank you. Good morning, Senator Gruters. I'm not sure I should have taken your advice to run for this office, but great to see you and welcome other members. And I apologize for not having come to see you all sooner since your election. I have previously served in California as a member of the state legislature, where I did a number of issues on environment, including the banning of medical waste incinerators in urban areas. And I have a great deal of experience with the environment. I also served on a fire protection district where we were not paid, but we did have a budget. It has come to my attention with the Soil and Water Conservation District that several years ago, 2016 to be exact, the legislature took away our taxing power and our legislative power. So we are not an enforcement or lawmaking body. We are here to serve as guidance and technical resources and coordination with other governmental and nonprofit agencies. And we have no fundraising capability other than asking you folks to help us out. We have had a lot of turnover in the last few years, and now we have 2 new elected members and one who is halfway through his first term. So it would be great if we could get some enhanced funding for education for ourselves so that we can do better outreach to the public. We don't have an office, we don't have a full-time staff, we don't have a website, we don't even have business cards. So we need to find out what we can do and make ourselves able to do it. To be able to develop a long-range plan and annual plans and a vision and to get out there and talk to everybody would be a great help.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And last but not least, Erin McLeod, Senior Friendship Centers.
Something to be said for being last. The last goes first, right?
Well, I'm glad to be here today. Friendship Centers has been serving the region since 1973. And I'm coming to you today because we've got two really internationally recognized, beautiful senior campuses that offer a myriad of services, everything from adult daycare for folks with Alzheimer's and dementia to our clinics that are staffed by retired physicians and dentists. The primary expense that's keeping me awake at night is caring for aging buildings. And I've got just a couple of capital and maintenance repairs that are going to be provided in a list to our delegation for your support. We are looking at things like replacement of elevators. Just in the last month, I've had 3 times in the last month where the elevator has gotten stuck. Once was on a Friday night with the cleaning crew. Thank God he knew my number because he was stuck in the elevator and there was nobody left in the building. Things like replacement of big plate glass windows during storms, that's really dangerous. They're held in with a lot of old wood framing, and it's probably not a safe issue. Leaking roof in our adult day program, I don't want to even use the M word, but I'm very concerned about the quality of the air unless we get that roof replaced. So those really, there's a list of about 8 projects, and it's everything from roofs to tile floors. But we have a 30-year building reserve study that we work from that gives our board and myself and our staff leadership an idea of where to invest the money. And I'm going to be short and sweet and say thank you for your service and your time.
Thank you so much. I'm going to let the audience know that we're not going to do delegation priorities today. We will consider those at a later date. And just reiterate that we are a team up here, and it doesn't matter who sponsors the individual appropriations project. We're all going to be working together on everything, and I encourage you to communicate with every single member, because when the time comes, it's those last couple of weeks where you have to bird dog some of these things, and it's important that you have everybody pushing. So my advice is to get everybody's cell phone number and push them at the end. But I appreciate everybody coming, and I'm going to let everybody say a closing remark if you'd like. We'll start with Representative Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to appreciate and say thanks to your staff for getting our notebooks and everything together. That's a lot of work, so thank you to your team and to your staff, and thank you to Sarasota County for hosting us today. It was a great day to hear all your priorities as someone that represents Manatee County as well. It's interesting that the priorities are the same. I heard the same types of issues: water quality, workforce development, housing. I think it's somewhat subliminal that we have this beautiful picture of Sarasota County looking at us and the city and the water. So I am very grateful to hear about all your priorities and others that I didn't listen, and look forward to the upcoming session. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Good.
Thank you, Senator Gruters, for getting this together and for your staff for making it happen. I really appreciate the work that y'all have done with our staff to get us up and running too. I echo Representative Robinson's comments. This has been a great morning of learning about the priorities, and I know a lot of the people that have spoken today have come and seen us in our offices individually, and I really appreciate the time that everyone spends to educate our delegation and to help move the priorities forward. You know, I think that there were a lot of good projects, but the overwhelming number of people that talked about water quality issues. This is something that needs to be at the forefront of all of our minds and the things that we're thinking about when we're moving forward in this session. I look forward to working with all of you on a lot of these issues.
Representative Buchanan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we have a great delegation here as one of 2 representatives that solely represent Sarasota County and Gruters. I think you're 100% Sarasota County.
And Charlotte.
And Charlotte. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. We're so appreciative to hear your input and ideas. We look forward to working with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you here soon.
Thank you. Representative Gregory.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for your time and patience here today and for bringing these issues to us. And I'll just echo 2 things that Senator Gruder said. One is, don't be shy about reaching out to us via cell phone, even if you've already got somebody to run that appropriations request or legislative issue. Bring it to all of us, because we are working together as a team which is a second comment to echo, and that is that we really are working together as a team. In town, we're meeting, and in Tallahassee, we're meeting, so keep contacting us. Thank you.
Representative Newton.
Thank you, Chairman. And I too share the sentiments of my colleagues. We do work together. Last session, we brought back about $1.5 billion for District 70 alone collectively. And I'm talking 4 delegations. So it's no choice but to work together because we represent 67 counties, 412 cities, 20.8 million people. So everybody's snatching at this, I guess, $90 billion budget. And we're trying to make sure we bring back the appropriation we need to make sure we move our area forward. I want to thank my staff is here. I got Michelle Grims, this is my LA, is here, and also my district secretary for my Minnesota office is Miss Cardinia Hardy. If you don't know where my Sarasota office is, we're on 63rd, just off of 301. You're coming out of the Flowers Bread Company with your donuts, we're right across the street. So, easy landmark. But I want to thank you guys for coming. We had over 60-plus speakers that came to share their importance and also their legislative priorities, and we heard them. And we're going to do the best we can to bring whatever home we can. But I also share in our chairman's sentiments about just don't hand us sheets and binders and all. You got to work this stuff too. You have to be calling people, emailing, and making sure you're supporting us so that to get things done. But thank you.
Putting together these meetings are never easy. You have to coordinate everything and get all the paperwork. And so Judy Kerr and Vicki Brill, you guys did a fantastic job. And we have the best 1-2 punch in Sarasota. I love all the other staffs, but I think my staff is the best. Thank you for what you guys did, and this meeting's adjourned.